Hey, how you been? Good to see you. Oh, hey, when did you get here? Gosh, how long has it been? Just one quarantine? God, feels longer than that. What? You like my outfit? It's called Webinar Casual. I actually got it at Macy's. It's from the COVID collection. These days, I'm working for Vertex. We're the global tax solution trusted by more than half of the Fortune 500. Would you like to see our #1 rating from Trust Radius? I just happen to have brought it with me. Vertex is a proud partner of Irish Titan and a super proud sponsor of Ecomm Forum. It's like Magento Imagine if it were in Fort Lauderdale during Bike Week and Metallica was opening for the Spice Girls. Thank you. We really hope you're enjoying the show and that you'll stay in touch after the show. How about a drink? I call this one my quarantini. Enjoy.
Hi, welcome to Ecomm Forum hosted by Irish Titan. I'm Ashley Snowy, the Senior Partner Marketing Manager at BigComerce. BigComerce is the world's leading cloud e-commerce platform for established and rapidly growing businesses. We have clients like Skull Candy, Ben & Jerry's, and more. This is our 3rd annual year to support and sponsor the Ecomm Forum, and we're so proud to be a part of the magic. You can expect informative sessions, networking, and not to mention bagpipes. Enjoy the show.
Hello, Ecomm Forum. I'm Jason Burge, Chief Alignment Officer at Redrook, home of iPass.com, your integration platform as a service for retail. Connect all of your retail applications, lower cost, better data across your systems. Coming to you today from our offices in Atlanta, which have been empty for so long, it still thinks it's St. Patrick's Day. But that plays well into the theme of Irish Titan, our partner. Thank you so much for having us participate. We love Ecomm Forum. We've gotten great information for our clients and our team and made some great partnerships in the past. We look forward to seeing you in Minneapolis next year. Until then, visit us at iPass.com and we will see you in 2021.
Hi, I'm Rachel Clark, Partner Manager at Shopify Plus, the commerce platform used by D2C innovators and Fortune 500s alike. We help brands like Allbirds, Molson Coors, Staples, and Gymshark start, scale, and grow their commerce operations through selling online, in-store, and anywhere in the world. We're proud to support Ecomm Forum explore best practices, new technology, trends, and more. See you soon.
Hi, I'm Wendy Malku, Director of Channel Partnerships and Alliances here at Annex Cloud. We have a loyalty experience management platform that allows you to engage with your best customers to really increase retention along with lifetime value. We are excited to be a sponsor of the Irish Titans Ecomm Forum. I can't think of a better place to learn about new technologies, trends to help you grow your business. I hope you have a great conference, and I am looking forward to meeting some of you through the course of the day.
Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, depending on where you are. My name is Quentin Montalto. I am the COO of ShipperHQ, that's headquartered down here in Austin, Texas. I want to take a quick minute to thank Irish Titan, got Mike Green on, for allowing us to be a part of Ecomm Forum this year. Really looking forward to speaking. What am I looking forward to most? Bagpipes, shenanigans, and fantastic e-commerce talk. I definitely recommend this to anybody who's on the fence or anybody who thinks, what am I doing that day? Ecomm Forum's where it's at. We're looking forward to sponsoring. We're looking forward to chatting. Hope to see you guys there.
Hey everyone, I'm Chloe Fisher, Manager of Partnerships for Brightpearl US, based out of Austin, Texas. If you're not familiar with Brightpearl, we're a back office solution designed to help omni-channel retailers, brands, wholesalers, and distributors automate processes like inventory and order management, fulfillment, customer relations, accounting, reporting, and much more. Essentially, everything that happens from the time a customer clicks the buy button on your website until the product arrives at their door gets touched by Brightpearl, with the goal of bringing visibility to merchants and reducing the time spent on non-revenue bearing tasks. We're proud to sponsor this year's Irish Titan Ecomm Forum. Now more than ever, we're seeing the role that e-commerce will play in the future of retail in this post-COVID world. We can't wait to see you there.
Hey everyone, hope y'all are staying positive, but most importantly, testing negative. My name is Miles Tinsley. I am the head of sales at Clevu North America. Clevu is an intelligent on-site search and navigation solution designed to help mid to enterprise level retailers increase sales and improve the overall online shopping experience. The Ecomm Forum is a no-brainer event for us, officially kicking off our partnership with Irish Titan at the beginning of this year. One of the things that we love about Irish Titan is the high energy they bring to the table. So we cannot imagine how awesome this event's going to be. We can't wait. We're super excited to meet everyone and see everyone. So let's buckle up. Let's go.
Hey guys, how are you? My name's James Danker, the Director of Partnerships here at Relay Cloud. A little bit about us. We're a post-purchase experience platform built for merchants. We help one side with the customer with a comprehensive approach to their return needs. And on the flip side, we help merchants retain their revenue and streamline their return processes and update all their back-end systems, as well as help integrate any type of technology that the merchant may request. We're here today to support the Ecomm Forum, which is a premier Upper Midwest event. And it's really about learning about industry trends, learning about best practices. And let's be honest, 2020 was a tough year. But the shining light through all this is that all these online businesses or people that weren't online are enabled to still stay relevant and still stay and keep their business afloat because of these types of businesses that are supporting the Ecomm Forum and our friends at Irish Titan. So we're super excited to be here, learn, contribute, and see how we can help each other. And that's what really this is about in 2020. So super excited to be here and see you guys on the 29th. Don't miss it.
Oh boy, folks, look at this. It's actually happening. It's the Irish Titans Zoom Magic Show. How about that, people? Let me begin by reminding everyone watching that there are no refunds. Oh. Luckily, I am your magician for today, Matt Dunn. How about that? Oh boy, listen to the thunder. Thank you so much. Actually, the way we have it set up today is very interesting. These Zoom magic shows, this is crazy. I can't hear anyone clapping. I can't hear anyone laughing. It's actually very similar to my regular show. But hey, how about this? You'd clap if you were here for this. And maybe Paul is my assistant here, and he's the one that made me think of this. Folks, Paul reminded me today that we've been doing this now for 25 years. How about that, Paul? Oh my gosh. This month, in fact, I feel good, but I look great. But what's going on here? We're doing the Zoom Magic Show. At one point in the show here, we're going to do a miracle right through the screen. So that's going to blow your mind. And speaking of blowing your mind, let's just get started. And I like to just warn everybody, because this is important. This is not a joke. Everything that you're going to see me do here during this riveting 15 minutes is just an illusion. Okay? Now, for all you Harvard grads that say, you didn't have to tell me that, I understand. I, too, am a Harvard applicant. However, it's come to my attention over the years, sometimes people think some of this stuff is real. I'm going to give you an example. This is a true story. Many years ago, I had a woman that called me late in the evening and wanted to know if I could give her some advice on casting spells and mixing brews. And I could tell she'd been doing so. And I cut her off. She said, I have some ex-boyfriends. I want to get them. And I said, listen, lady, this stuff's not real. This is all pretend. And I would ask for the last time that you stop calling this number, Mom. It's getting obnoxious. So keep that in mind, folks. But let's not waste another moment. Let's get the show started. And I always like to start off with perhaps something you've never seen before. I think I've done it. This is exciting. I'll show it to you, folks. It would be this item right here. Thank you. Now, for a long time, whenever I would bring this out, I would let people guess as to what they thought this might be. I've stopped doing that because it's come to my attention that just mixed among us in the various communities, there's some real weirdos. Just some interesting guesses. I was doing this for a family audience the other day, and there was a kid that said, I know what that is. That's one of those old-fashioned hand choppers, right? And I thought to myself, actually, you know what, to be honest, that kid is a sicko. Something's wrong with him. Stick with the at-home learning, because if you look at this, it looks like a board with a circle. This is not a board with a circle. This is a black hole. Anything you put inside of here will disappear into another dimension. The other day, for example, I reached inside of here and put this little white ball inside of there just like that. Yep, I put it into the hole like this. I snapped my fingers and gave it a shake. The shake is the key part. And it completely disappeared into the other dimension. To get it back out, all I have to do is reach right back through the hole and pull the ball out like that. Paul, you're the only one here. Oh boy, it's been a long 25 years for poor Paul. Now, listen to this. I was doing this demonstration several months ago before this whole COVID goof up. And there was a nice young gal in the audience. She was very sweet. She's about 13 years old. She raised her hand and she said, hey, how come when you put your hand through the hole, that doesn't disappear into the other dimension? Let me tell you something. I thought that was a great question. I thought that was a tremendous question. And I felt horrible when I ejected her from her own bat mitzvah. Now, let's say you folks ever come across one of these things. You got to be careful. Pick something that if you can't get it back, it's not going to be a big deal. Take it, place it into the hole like this, snap the fingers and give it a shake, and it disappears. To get it back out, you have to hold the board like this. You cannot hold it like that. That's not going to go well. It has to be held more in this position. Otherwise, you can't reach right back through and pull the ball out like that. Did you see that over here, people? There's no one over there, but that's called misdirection because you've seen what happens when the ball goes through in this direction. When the ball goes through in the opposite direction, it completely changes the molecules, so much so it becomes much softer and turns into an egg just like that. Come on, people, look at that. 25 years right there. A board with a hole. Well, I've clearly gotten you all too excited. I can just feel it coming through the internet. This is fun. And I'm actually, you know what we should do right now? Let's get this out of the way. I perform shows for all types of different groups. I do things for teenagers, children, adults, senior citizens. That's usually more of a hypnosis program. Everyone just gone. And they wake up and they go, a cat. I mean, I've never had a cat in a show. And every one of these performances I do, there's one of these illusions, one of these optical things where I I reach into a book and I pull a real live rabbit right out of the book. Hand goes in, rabbit comes out. People, you can't handle it. Listen to this. We got a problem. The other day, I'm in the grocery store. And a woman comes up to me and she says, aren't you the magician? And I picked up a pineapple for protection and singed my mask. And I said, who? And she said, oh, yes, you are. I can see it in your eyes. Our son, Billy, he saw your magic show the other day. We came home. We found him putting his little hamster inside of a book. What? Apparently, young, innocent, susceptible children, they've been seeing me do this rabbit in the book trick. They're going home. They're trying to squeeze their family pets into books. It's not going well. So I thought, I have a lovely a group of people. We're all having fun. Irish Titans, they have a lot of fun. Last time they hired me, they tried to get me to do a magic show on a roof. And I said, no. I was wearing this. Climbing over a railing. The ladder was made out of string or something. So I said, yeah, why don't I just teach you all maybe how that trick works? You see what I'm saying? I'll teach you all. And then if you meet any of these kids, any of these improperly vaccinated children, you just explain how the whole thing works. Would you like to learn how a trick works, folks? Thank you. Very good. Paul, wake up. Thank you. Just dozed off. Oh, very good. As some of you may know, magicians have special boxes we use for tricks. If I want to do the rabbit in the book trick, special box. Normally nobody ever sees it. Today I'm going to show it to you. It is this box right here. Unfortunately today I do not have with me the real rabbit. Unfortunately, the only rabbit I was able to grab before the show started was this rabbit right here. Oh boy. Thank you, folks. At the end, my email will be available for hire. Imagine this was real. At my house prior to the show, I would take the rabbit and very carefully place him down into the box like so. I would then let the box do its thing for a couple seconds and then assist it in the process by turning this knob. Turning this knob allows me to squeeze the rabbit out the front of the box in a thinner, sleeker, skinnier form like that. Yeah. Happy Halloween, folks. Now I realize that no longer looks like the rabbit. Looks more like something you would see here in Minneapolis on 35W. However, that would still be the rabbit. Now you can see he's much thinner and can easily slide into a thin book. Now, just to complete the whole process in all your heads, I did bring with me the book that I usually use for this. I grabbed a couple of books. What is this? This is a duck book right here. Pardon me. This is a great book. This is a wonderful book. I actually read this every night. Have you all ever read this one before? Can we get it on camera here? Can you see this? Guess how much I love you. Oh, it's fantastic. I read this every night in front of the mirror. I would take the book. I would open it up to a page with a picture of a rabbit already on it. Easy case in this scenario. Look at that right there. Oh boy, we have a big rabbit and a small one there, right, running for office. I would take the skinny rabbit, place him into the book like this. Now he's in there. You see what I'm saying? He didn't get injured. There were no popping noises. There was no oozing. Then, later on the magic show, it's a simple process to reach inside the book, pull the real rabbit out like that. Yo, come on, people. Paul, it's your favorite part of it. Paul loves bunnies. Oh, boy, he's into them. And he's single, folks. How about that? Oh, Nelly. Huh? There he is. Look at that. Well, I can't believe it. Of course I can. He makes an appearance at every Matt Dunn magic show. It's Houdini the rabbit. Oh, boy. Isn't that exciting, people? There he is. Well, normally in this part of the show, everyone actually says, ooh and ah, and isn't he so cute? And I say thank you, so is the rabbit. And then I put Houdini away. However, I did just learn a new trick with the rabbit. Would you like to see a new trick with the rabbit, folks? Why not? Why wouldn't you? This is brand new, so it shouldn't go well. This is the disappearing rabbit trick. This is pretty good. Okay. All right. This is a smaller paper. Okay. Yeah. We're gonna rotate this. Can you see it from that angle? I can't because we changed the monitor. And did you? I can't. Yeah. All right, here we go, folks. Look at this. Look at that. He's totally gone. Isn't that good? That'll wrap up. Thanks for nothing. If you people don't like these miracles, just forget the whole thing. Forget it. Hey, Paul's on his feet. I hope you people are. Hey, you know what? I'm coming back later today. That's how much they paid for this. You got me 2 times. I'm coming back around 4 o'clock, folks. So come on back. You're going to see some more miracles. Have fun here today at the Irish Titans. Well, the magic show portion's over. Whatever else you're doing, I'm going to take a nap. See you later, guys. 4 o'clock. Come on back.
And with that, welcome to Ecomm Forum 2020. I feel like I should just throw out all my notes and just talk bagpipes and magicians now. I don't know why we haven't had magicians part of this every year, and I already have ideas about what we're going to add next year. So anyway, let's give it up for Jimmy Bagpipes, which is one of the best names ever, and Magician Matt. Thanks to Matt and Jimmy for welcoming everybody into our little Ecomm party. So welcome to everybody who has been to our Ecomm Forum event in the past. This is our 6th year. For those of you who are new to the event, welcome and thank you for joining the fun. Let's see. So I'm going to kick things off real briefly, and then we'll get started here with the speakers shortly. I want to start with the reason we started the event 6 years ago is because we wanted to shine a spotlight on our region's e-commerce achievements to date and inspire those yet to come. And we feel really good that this year's speakers are going to do just that. I typically leave everybody in the welcome section with a bit of data, some themes, et cetera, to support why we're doing this event. I'm going to leave most of that to the speakers, but there are 2 data points I'm going to share that I think will set the table. The amount of e-commerce adoption in the 3 months ending with August equaled the same amount of e-commerce adoption in the preceding 10 years. Secondly, as measured as a percentage of the penetration of retail sales, e-commerce experienced 10 years of growth within just 8 weeks this summer. So I think that explains why we're all here for the rest of the afternoon to learn a little bit more about e-commerce, what we can do to celebrate our achievements and inspire those yet to come. Moving on, let's ease into some housekeeping. Things are obviously a little different this year in many ways. As far as Ecomm Forum is concerned, we have moved from our big event to a live in studio kind of feel, a Saturday Night Live, if you will, or maybe a Thursday afternoon live, if you will. So we have some of our local speakers here and some of our local bagpipers, I guess I should be saying too. Those of us who are here are masked when we're off screen, socially distanced, we have the Corona guards, et cetera. The rest of our speakers, we're going to be pulling in via Zoom, those who are peppered around the country, but all of this is being live streamed. So all of this is live, for better or worse. To get the most out of this year's event, since it's a little bit different, the number one thing you should do is engage in the Slack channel, the Slack workspace that we have set up for the event, okay? So we have a general Slack channel for questions and general riffraff. Then we have different Slack channels set up for each speaker in the sequence in which they're speaking, okay? So each speaker or panel has a channel And you can go out there, you can ask them questions, you can follow up, ask for them to follow up with you, you can engage with other people who are out there. That is the number one thing you can do to make sure you get the value out of this year's event in the format that we're delivering it. If you have any questions, want to get in touch with anybody, any of the speakers or panelists, you can reach out to Irish Titan. We'll make sure that that happens. If you have any questions about Slack, if you scroll down on the page that you're watching me on right now, there's a link to the Slack channel. There's also a link to any issue, to a page if you have any issues with the live streaming. All right, sponsors. I want to be clear that this event would not happen without the sponsors. We curate those sponsors very carefully, and we do that because we want to make sure that they are aligned with the spirit of this event. It's not a sales pitch, it's not a trade show, it's a high energy, high content, e-commerce focused dialogue. And my phone is ringing, I guess I didn't put it on mute. Sides is calling me, that's probably on purpose, sorry. I told you we're live. Okay, so back to sponsors. We've curated them carefully because we want them to be part of the spirit of this event. And so many of them are repeat sponsors, and we thank them for that. We want everybody attending to make sure to interact with the sponsors, engage with them. You can check them out on our Ecomm Forum website. There's a sponsors page. They also will have all of their pre-roll sponsor videos that preceded our event pinned to the top of the general channel in Slack. So please go out there and show them some support because we would not be here without them. The arc of the event. We're going to start with a note from our charity partner, BrandLab. I'll talk a little bit more about them here shortly. Then we're going to kick things off with Jaime Taets. She's going to razzle and dazzle us with some, with some leadership talk and engage us in things outside of e-commerce. We do that on purpose. We want to kick things off with leadership and culture and those things that should inspire us no matter what industry we're in before we move to the e-commerce focused content. Then we're going to have a mixture of the industry spotlight talks. So those are TED style talks, 10-minute rapid fire, high content jam sessions where each of the speakers is talking through whatever their topic is that we can all walk away from learning. We have 3 panels. We have a merchant panel. They're going to talk about their achievements to date and those yet to come. We have an industry panel that's going to talk about trends and best practices and predictions for where e-commerce is going in our future. And we have an entrepreneurs panel, which is new this year. And if these entrepreneurs don't inspire you, that part of our mission is to inspire those achievements yet to come. If these entrepreneurs don't do that, nobody will. So that's the arc of the event. Lastly, each year, there are a few Titans that really, really step up, and I want to make sure to recognize them, show them some love, and make sure that they get the pat on the back, the virtual pat on the back that they deserve. Jack Swift, who that's his real name, not a nursery rhyme character. He's our marketing manager. This is his first Ecomm Forum, and he has absolutely killed it. J.E. Urseth is an e-com strategist at Irish Titan, and he has been a big part of this for 5 years now. And this year going virtual, I think, was the biggest change for him, and he stepped up. So please make sure if you know either of those Titans to give them a big virtual pat on the back because, to put it plainly, they kicked ass, and they deserve that. Finally, we have all suffered through probably far too many Zooms and webinars since COVID hit that have been absolute snore fests. We are adamant that this is not going to be one of those. For better or worse, we wanted to make sure that this is a different kind of event, a different kind of experience, hence Bagpipes and Magicians, or Bagpipes and a Magician. And so we tried to kick it off in that way that's setting the table, and we're going to try to make sure to have fun along the way, okay? So please make sure to engage, help us achieve that with the different kind of vibe that we want, because we want this to be a Zoom, an event, that a live stream that people walk away from and say, that was different, that was a good use of my time, I learned some things, I had some fun, that's the way it should be. So with that, we're actually going to move into our charity partner. Let's get started with the message from BrandLab. They've been changing the face and the voice of the marketing industry for 11 years now. We've been supporters for the last 3, and we're excited to bring their message to you. So with that, we're going to turn over to BrandLab's video that's going to kick things off. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Rocky Novak, CEO of Fallon Advertising, and I am speaking to you today on behalf of the BrandLab, who is the charitable partner for this year's Ecomm Forum. The BrandLab was founded in 2009 with the mission of changing the face and voice of the marketing and advertising industries. And for the last 11 plus years, they've done just that. They've built a program that starts in schools and high schools and introduces students to worlds of creative jobs that they didn't even know existed. It then grows into an internship for many of these students, then a networking and connect program, and more recently, the BrandLab has actually gone directly into companies around the country with what they call fearless conversations, which are moderated dialogues around DE&I in one's own company. And I can tell you, after having experience with all these programs at Fallon over the last 10 years, that the BrandLab has got something special happening. They are producing wonderful alumni. They are advancing the conversation. They are changing the face of the industries we work in and bringing diverse talent into the businesses that all of us represent. But you don't need to take my word for it. You can meet some of the alumni that have come out of the program.
Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn Espinoza and I'm currently a college student at MCTC. I have been with the BrandLab since 2018 and have completed 3 internships. Each internship has been an incredible and amazing experience. The BrandLab has opened many doors for me and other students to learn more insights about the marketing industry. The BrandLab has also supported and encouraged me to challenge myself to the real world. So without their opportunities and resources, I wouldn't be who I am today. So with your donations, you can help students reach one step closer to their dreams. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Angel Zhang. I'm a senior at St. Catherine University in St. Paul, Minnesota. I've been part of the BrandLab since 2017 and I've completed 4 internships with the program. Each of my internship experiences have been absolutely amazing. I've gotten to work with real industry professionals and I've been doing real industry work. Being part of the program has encouraged me to be my best self and has helped me realize that I make a difference just by being who I am. The industry so desperately needs more representation of people of color and people that look like me, and I hope to make that difference when working within this industry.
Thank you, Jocelyn and Angel, for telling your stories, and thank you all for allowing us to stand between you and this incredible lineup of speakers that you have coming. If I may, beyond the few minutes you've already given us, ask one more thing, that you consider to donate to the BrandLab. Like I said, they have a program that has been, it's been proven. They've got graduates out in the workforce now, and every dollar that we're able to send in the direction of the BrandLab is a dollar well spent. For all of us looking for ways to change our own cultures and culture at large to be more representative of the rest of the world around us, the BrandLab is worth investing in. So if you would consider maybe even taking the price of the ticket that you would have paid today and sending it the BrandLab's way, I can promise you it will be money well spent. Thanks again for your time. Have a wonderful afternoon, a wonderful forum, and all the best. Be well.
To that end, we have 2 links in the Slack general channel that we've pinned to the top. One to BrandLab in general, to their website, and one to a donate link. So please do what you can to support their cause. It's a great one, and I think it's something we should all be proud of. Now, before I introduce Jaime, remember how I mentioned that this is entirely live. So from that video forward, this is entirely live, no edits, no machines. So we've done everything we can to bulletproof this, but this is 2020, so we'll see where we end up. Buckle up, buttercups, and let's see what happens. All right? So now I'm going to introduce Jaime Taets. She is going to talk about conscious leadership for new normal, how expectations of leaders are changing. I'm excited for her to be our keynote speaker. We met just a few months ago, became fast friends, not just because we're fellow Hawkeyes. She's bright, she's engaging, she's a bit mischievous, so checks 3 boxes for people that I like. So Jaime, please come on board and talk to us.
Thanks, Darin. So just to be clear, the conversation when Darin asked me to keynote here today went something like this. Hey, I'd really like you to keynote at the Ecomm Forum. And I said, sure, anything for a friend. What he failed to mention was that I would be going after a magician and bagpipers. Thank you. Yeah, appreciate that. So I'm going to try to jazz it up a little bit, right? And make sure that we definitely do not have a snooze fest here today. But I am going to make sure that we are talking about what leadership looks like in this new normal, right? A lot has changed in 2020. Things were even evolving and changing before that. And as you guys go into all the other topics that you're going to talk about here today that are business strategy driven, right? Really important things that we need to do. I want you to be thinking about the conscious leadership and the approach that it's going to take to be able to make those things happen, because it doesn't happen without leadership. So to start with, I wanted to just define what leadership actually means, right? And leadership has been something that in all of our organizations has been important for a very long time. What we are seeing evolve in 2020 is something that we call conscious leadership. And it's different than the leadership of the past. It's not based on titles. It's not based on your rank. It's not based on hierarchical power. Conscious leadership is built on love, trust, and respect for the people that you work for, the people you work alongside, and the people that work for you. And that's what we're going to talk about today and how that can change, because here's what's happened in the last 10 months. Leaders have been created, they've been born out of this crisis, and leaders have also been exposed for the weaknesses and the areas where maybe they weren't as strong as they thought they were. Maybe they weren't as strong as the organization thought they were. And so our job is to dive into that evolution of leadership and what that next new normal looks like and how we have to evolve as leaders. And that's our goal for today, is to talk about the speed at which leadership is changing, some of the requirements, not just nice to haves, that we're starting to see in that leadership space. I want to start with talking about the difference between what we've seen evolve from the previous years and leadership. And it started with good companies and good leaders being able to get results. We can hit our financial targets, we can hit our project deadlines, right? We can do what the customer needs us to do. The difference between good companies and good leaders and great companies and great leaders is how they get to the finish line. Let me give you an analogy. Every single day in our businesses, we run races. Could be an M&A, could be a new product or service, maybe a big leadership transition, new project that we're implementing for a customer that we haven't done before. We have those races that we run. And there's 2 ways to get to the end of that race. The first option looks like this. This is what good companies can do. They can get to the finish line of the race. But when they get there, their team is tired. They don't really want to do it again. They feel alone, like they just ran the race by themselves. Right? So again, we can get to the finish line, but we didn't do it in a way that really builds the organization. This is how great companies get to the end of the finish line. Same race, same project, same product, but their team actually builds trust along the way, right? They're sweaty, they're tired, they might even, want a little bit of a break before we do this again, but they're willing to get back into it again with their team because they're a team. And that's really the difference between good companies and good leaders and great companies and great leaders. And the world is requiring us to be great leaders. It's the only way we build resilient organizations and we move our communities forward. The way we move our world forward is if we dig deep and try to develop these skill sets that are going to make us great leaders. So I want to talk about some leadership requirements for this new normal that we talk about. What are we expecting from our leaders going forward? And these are going to become absolute requirements. You've heard about these in the past. There's nothing I'm going to share with you that's going to be earth-shattering, but what I am going to share with you is there is an expectation and a pace of change that's happening that if you aren't willing to get on board as leaders, our organizations are going to leave you behind. Right? People are going to jump over us and skip. We're going to be skipped for some of the promotions and the things in the future because our organizations are going to need these requirements to have a competitive advantage in the marketplace. And that's what we can do as leaders, is to focus on this. The first leadership requirement that we're seeing is emotional intelligence. So again, not new, right? Otherwise known as EQ. For many years, we've seen the difference between IQ and EQ, right? What's more important? And what we're seeing evolve, and even Forbes has stated this, that emotional intelligence is the #1 leadership skill of the next decade, right? Leaders have to be able to connect. They have to be able to be vulnerable with their employees, with their peers, with their customers. That people are looking for this as we go forward. They're looking for us to be human. They're looking for us to screw up when we're on a live stream because it's real. Right? It's not the highlight reel of our life, it's the real things that we're dealing with. And so when you've got that high EQ, you're able to sit in the seat of your customer or your employee and look at the situation from their perspective, right? Have empathy for what they're dealing with and how this might look from their perspective. So that emotional intelligence is something that all of you should be figuring out how to strengthen that muscle. The next leadership requirement is what we're calling leader as coach. And what this really means, I want to give you an analogy. If you all think of the best mentor, coach that you've ever had in your life, somebody that's had an impact on your life, we can all think of someone. It could have been a coach of a sport in high school. It could have been your first manager. It could be somebody from your church, right? There's a lot of people that have impacted our lives. And the reason those people pop into our minds is because they did two things for us. They invited us and they challenged us. Invited us meant they gave us their time. They focused on us. They taught us things we didn't know. They were patient with us. And then when we were ready, they challenged the hell out of us. That's why we think of those people, is they did both of those things. They didn't just challenge us with no support, and they didn't just coddle us with all sorts of support and no challenge. And so the analogy to think about is when we're learning a new sport, let's say, basketball, for example, because I know Darin likes basketball. The gym teacher has certain requirements, right? That's the manager. Certain requirements of skills that you're supposed to learn in each grade. When you decide to go out for the team in middle school or high school, the coach takes what you've learned, uses your natural strengths, and helps you refine your game and teaches you the strategy of the game. That's the difference between a manager and a leader that's a coach. And that leadership piece is what's going to drive resiliency. It's what's going to drive performance in our organizations, is if people feel like we are there, we're in their corner to make them better and to bring those strengths to the forefront. It's going to create a competitive advantage for our organizations. The next leadership requirement is something that we call asking different questions. If we haven't learned this year that no matter what we thought the answer was, it's probably been blown to smithereens during this year, is our whole world has changed. And as leaders, we've been talking about this in our training for 5 years, about asking different questions. And I want to explain to you what I mean by this. There's 2 types of questions when a situation happens, whether it's good or bad, that we can ask. A degree of strength question is a question that pushes someone into the future and helps them think differently. I'll give you an example. So let's say we have a customer outage on our site. There's 2 options. A degree of weakness question is, what happened? Who did something wrong? Go figure out what we did wrong. I want an answer by the end of the day, right? When we do that, we take our people and we send them into the past. We send them to go dig around in something that's already happened. A degree of strength question is, okay, right? Clearly there was an issue today. What can we do to ensure this never happens again? When you phrase your question that way, you push your team into the future, you keep their eye on the ball, but you also allow them to solve the issue without blame, without talking about the failure, and we create resiliency in our organizations because we're teaching them how to move forward when crappy things happen. Because if all of us think that this pandemic is the end of the crises in our businesses, you're very wrong. There's going to be more things, hopefully, not soon and not at this level, but we're going to continue to hit these kind of crises. And the best thing we can do is teach our teams, teach our communities, teach our kids how to be resilient in the face of crises, not to avoid it. The last leadership requirement is valuing diversity. And this one, I am not going to claim to be a diversity, equity, and inclusion expert. But what I am is I'm a leader that works with other business leaders to help them understand what diversity actually means and the value of it in their organization. And one thing I want to be really clear on is when I talk about diversity, I am not talking about affirmative action and meeting some kind of a number. And this is a sensitive subject for a lot of leaders right now. But what diversity actually means is ensuring that you are listening to voices that have different experience and different backgrounds and different perspectives from you, sometimes even counter to what you believe, and then using that to make your product or your service or your business better. That's what valuing diversity actually means. And it's a unique thing for each leader. But as leaders, we have to lean into this right now because it's the right thing for our organizations. It's the right things for our community. And so it's just reframing how we think about diversity and think about it in terms of not the color of someone's skin, not necessarily the sexual orientation or their religious beliefs. It's about the value of their ideas and the perspective and the experiences that they bring to the table that are going to make us better as an organization. So when we can figure out this conscious leadership and we can build kind of a deeper connection to our organization, we can get more vulnerable as leaders ourselves, we create greater business results. This has been studied at a rate, and it will be studied out of this crisis, on the companies that focused on leadership and caring for their people and how that propelled them forward out of this. So some of the biggest business results, I'm going to share with you what we're seeing in those great companies that are fueling their company with great leadership, right, and caring for their people. The first thing is performance. When we allow people to show up every day and use their strengths, right, and we send them into the future with those degrees of strength questions and we allow them to grow, and we know they're going to trip and they're going to stumble every now and then, but we help them get back up and we figure out how to move them forward. That creates performance in our organization. Studies have proven that our employees use 40% of their capacity every day, of their mental ability at the office. That is like burning a large pile of cash every day in our organizations. And our job as leaders is to figure out how to harness that power. And it's different for each person in our organization, but it's absolutely crucial for us to survive crises like we're dealing with right now, and for us to thrive on the other side. The second piece of business results that we're really seeing right now is creative thinking and innovation. And I don't necessarily mean like Elon Musk, like really crazy innovation kind of stuff. I mean, how can we make our customers' journey better? Are we asking people? Are we challenging our people to think differently during this time? We have done more innovation sessions in the last 6 months than we have done in the last 5 years before that. Companies want to think differently. They know they have to survive. But we want them to do, what we want really conscious leaders to do is to realize we have to build this into our everyday business. Right? How do those ideas come forward? How do we allow people to bring unique challenges that they're seeing to the table? And how do we ensure we listen to them? Because the best ideas are going to come from our people that are closest to the issues and that are closest to the things that are probably impeding our business right now. So it's focusing on that creative thinking, because I can guarantee your customers are going to feel the difference if your employees and your organization is in that creative mindset. We have an analogy in our business that we use with a lot of our clients where we talk about to stop mowing dandelions. And what this analogy really means is that in our businesses every day, we have issues. We all have issues. You have issues? Darin has issues. Yes? He has plenty of issues. We already know that. But in our businesses every day, we have issues. We have two choices with those issues. We can get the mower out and we can mow them off at the grass, And it feels good for now. And then a couple days later, they come back and they probably have friends, right? They're not by themselves. Or we can slow down, dig to the root, and solve the issue forever, knowing that we're going to have other issues that we have to deal with next week. But at least we're not solving the same ones over and over again. And conscious leadership means that we are enabling and empowering our people to bring up the issues and to slow down and solve them so that we don't continue dealing with these same issues over and over again. As we look at the generational changes, the millennials, the Gen Zs that are now in the workforce, they have grown up in a world of efficiency, of I can get to it in 2 seconds on my phone, right? They want to work smarter, not harder. They do not want to deal with the same things over and over again, nor should any of us, right? It's the definition of insanity. And so how do we ensure our organization and as leaders that we are built in a way to bring those things to the surface and to openly and honestly talk about what's working and what's not working in our business? It's a fundamental business result performance indicator going forward. And the last piece that we feel is really important is thinking about culture and employee experience. So create a place where people want to be. Whether all you can control is your department, your part of the organization, it's our job as leaders to create an employee experience that gets the most out of our people and ensures that they feel like they're coming in every day using their strengths. The definition that we give of what a positive culture actually is it's a place where people leave every day better than when they came in. And many of our organizations can't say that that's where we're at right now, and that's okay. But if nothing else, this pandemic and the crises of 2020 should have taught us that that is an intangible value to our organization. If we have people that can come in and feel like their bucket has been filled all day long, and we send them home to their families, we send them home to their communities better than when they came in the morning. And what I've shared on the screen here is our culture model. It's something that we created in 2018 just out of sheer frustration because business leaders didn't know how to wrap their heads around culture. It was this nebulous thing. They knew they needed to care about it, but they weren't sure how they could impact it. And so that's all there for you. If you want to dig in more, it'll be on the Slack channel. You can download it for free. We give it away because our goal is to impact leaders so they can then carry that impact into their organizations. We believe that when you can create your leadership skills that support a positive culture and a positive employee experience, the sky's the limit for your business. No crisis is going to impede it when you've got the right focus as leaders in your organization. I think we can all agree that it's a new age. I think we can all agree that there's a new normal that's evolving that we don't fully understand yet. But what we do need to understand is the only way we get back to thrive, to where we were before, to the good old days, whatever that looks like, is for us as leaders to shift our perspective and be determined to grow and be the people that are going to help drive this change. That's my message for you today as you go into the rest of today and you're thinking about your strategies and how you can look at products and services differently. All really important things. But none of that matters if we do not have a leadership capability in our own organizations, in our own departments, that's going to drive those things forward in a way that drives profit, that drives community impact, and that drives our customers to want to keep coming back to us. I would love to connect with anybody who wants to have further discussions about this. I also have a podcast. Darin's going to be recording shortly, so we'll make sure that we get that out to you guys. But it's our goal is to just make leaders better, to help you evolve through that leadership journey. And one last thing that I want to leave you with, and I just read this a couple days ago, and we'll put it in the Slack channel because I'm going to be on answering questions after this. The CEO of Airbnb, Brian Chesky, put out a letter, and some of you may have heard this, back in May or June, when they had to lay off 25% of their workforce. And Airbnb's income, their revenue, dropped by 80% in an 8-week period of time. And what happened to that organization is he had to come out and make some really tough decisions for them to survive. And if you search Brian Chesky letter, you'll find the entire letter that he sent out to his leaders. And I want you to read through that, and I want you to see words like, you haven't failed, right? None of us know the answers. I love you all. Public letter, and he used the words love. And for many of us in our organizations, we feel like that's a weird word to use. But conscious leadership is about loving, respecting, trusting the people around us. That's how we move the ball forward. That's how our organizations get back to thriving again, is when we bring love into the workplace and we care for each other at a deeper level than we have before. If we have learned nothing through this pandemic, we should have learned that love and a care for each other is how we get back to normal. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Jamie. Wow, I think you just saw what I saw when I sat in the studio in MCN 6 in a table in the back and saw Jamie speak at Team Women, and thought to myself, I want Jamie to be a speaker at Ecomm Forum, because anybody that talks about leadership and culture gets my attention, and I think these times call for that even more. Leadership and culture is what's going to help us all stand tall, start moving, and stop waiting. So make sure to follow up with Jamie and on the Slack channel, et cetera. And she was also entirely accurate. I gave her very little direction on what to do, who she'd be following, et cetera, because I knew she was a pro. Also, for those of you who happen to watch Magician Matt lead into our event officially, he was also accurate when he mentioned that I tried to get him to go out on the roof to do a magic show for us at Irish Titan. If our landlords are watching, it's not true. That never happened. But anyway, so let's get moving. One thing to note, we already have some really good interaction going on in the Slack channels, which is fantastic. So thank you to everybody for that. To help encourage that to continue, we're putting a little bit of incentive into it. We are going to choose 3 random people, except for Larry Toma, you're not available. And so 3 random people from the various Slack channels will be chosen to receive a prize with a little bit of an Irish angle to it that will be shipped to you in the next week or 2. So thank you, Jamie. So please make sure to engage out there. Let's get kicked off with our first spotlight. So our first spotlight speaker is going to talk about the new normal, 10 educated guesses about what that might include. So let's welcome the manager of channel marketing for Vertex, Shannon Kelly. Shannon, the floor is yours. How are you, man?
I'm good. You know what's ironic? I almost thought about doing this for my roof. So,
right. If you were wearing green and on your roof, that would have been perfect.
You got to give me more notice than that, man. So for our discussion today, super excited to be here, and thank you for having us as a sponsor and a presenter. Our agenda, we're going to cover some stuff in 15 minutes, y'all, so buckle up. Only in 2020 will we be discussing business trends like pending apocalypse, so why not adopt that theme for our first 2 predictions? We're going to discuss shop again. How will this COVID thing impact brick and mortar locations during the holidays? Ship again. E-commerce has been churning at a rate previously unheard of. Why does trying to, or what will trying to execute holiday fulfillment do to exacerbate the challenges of on-time shipping? And then travel. We're going to take a look at current travel statistics and consider what the near future of air travel and in-person meetings might look like. And what does the future hold for workplace trends? Are companies going to return to their offices or adopt the new normal? And finally, we'll consider all the wonderful things that have complicated an already complex world of global tax. So let's get to it, shall we? Shop-ageddon. You can almost see Godzilla destroying a Macy's, can't you? It's 2020, folks. If you dream it, it can happen. Now, unlike the prospect of murder hornets, can you remember either being out there or seeing the mayhem of hundreds of people camping out or standing in line to get those juicy Black Friday deals freezing their butt off in 10-degree weather for that 40% discount on a 75-inch television? I can, I've been there. Well, many retailers and mall owners with names like Best Buy and Bed Bath & Beyond, Dick's, Walmart, Target, Simon Property Group, they're not going to open on Thanksgiving Day so that their employees can spend the holidays with their families. I think that's pretty cool. Additionally, they're going to modify their Black Friday promotions and hours of operations to avoid early morning lines and overcrowding amidst ongoing social distancing measures and reduced store capacities. You can expect to see more adoption of curbside pickup and designated lots for touchless delivery to your vehicle. My prediction, the safety and convenience of shoppers and employees will be their top priority. However, retailers and mall owners will want to make up for their lost sales opportunities somehow. Now, some of them will do that by lengthening the holiday shopping season. For example, Home Depot will forego Black Friday deals altogether and spread their promotions throughout November and December. The gift that keeps on giving. Ship-again. Now, perhaps this is the Mothra to your Godzilla. When I say e-commerce is through the roof, man, I mean the roof of a skyscraper. Amazon, as you've likely heard, is the first $1 trillion company, and this year didn't hurt them one little bit. Their e-commerce haul increased by more than 39% in 2020. Nearly 40% of all e-commerce transactions run through their machine. Amazon Prime established the gold standard for fulfillment and delivery, but even this Goliath has struggled to meet expectations for timely delivery to a lot of markets, especially in the early stages of panic buying and consumer hoarding, if you remember the toilet paper. And then we see the interesting emergence of non-traditional e-commerce performers, certainly later to the game than a lot of omni-channel sellers. You can see on my handy dandy graphic there that Kroger and Costco have surged into the top 10. My prediction, order early. Santa is going to be riding extra heavy and these elves are going to break a sweat to deliver the goods on time. Air travel. The subject matter experts for all things airline related is IATA, the International Air Transport Association. And they are forecasting the worst financial performance in the history of commercial aviation, predicting a global loss of $84 billion, billion with a B. And the aerospace industry, who supports airlines with equipment, parts, and services, pronounced that 2020 is the gravest crisis the industry has ever known. IATA also found that 55% of people polled are not willing to return to the skies within 2 months of COVID restrictions lifting. Even if people may cautiously return to domestic travel, the demand for long-haul flights is likely to remain close to zero for many months. And travel has evolved significantly in the past 6 months since the spread of COVID-19 pandemic. There will likely be a number of current initiatives in passenger and facility hygiene and sanitation that will stay in place post-pandemic. So, will air travel ever be fun again? Yes, but you can expect a much higher value proposition built around safe and secure travel, much like air travel changed after 9/11 with security screening, so will COVID-19 change our demands for a safe and clean travel experience. My prediction, significant returns to domestic air travel will not occur before late Q2, early Q3. Live in-person events scheduled before that will fail, and many companies have scrapped in-person meetings for all of 2021 already. Others, I expect, will follow suit. The workplace. Based on historical trends, those who are working remotely before the pandemic will likely increase their frequency after they are allowed to return to their offices. For those who were new to remote work until the pandemic, I think there will be a significant upswing in their adoption. According to Global Workplace Analytics.com, it's a big mouthful, the best estimate is that around 30% of the workforce working at home on a multiple day a week basis by the end of 2021. And here's why. There was an increasing pre-pandemic demand for work from home for employees. Now, managers and executives, they get it. They have a reduced fear about working from home. They used to say, if they're at home, how will I know that they're working? And I would reply, how did you know they were working in the office? Research also shows that managers who have worked from home themselves are more likely to endorse it for others, and their worries about lost productivity go away. Now, disaster preparedness, you can bet there's going to be a mass migration to the cloud to mitigate risk of future shutdowns and quarantines surrounding pandemics or other crises. Business applications from home in the cloud will stave off lost productivity in the event of future occurrences of pandemics or the like. Cost savings. This kind of blew my mind when I was doing the research. COVID-19 will also likely cause executives to rethink travel for meeting conferences, and they will learn that while virtual meetings may not have all the same benefits of being face-to-face, the savings may outweigh much of the cost most of the time. A typical employer can save about $11,000 a year for every person who works remotely half the time. Employees can save between $2,500 and $4,000 a year working remotely half the time, and even more if they're able to move to a less expensive area and work remotely full-time. It's estimated work from home initiatives will save US employers over a combined $30 billion a day during the COVID-19 crisis. This may be the tipping point for remote work. There's an increased awareness of the potential impact work from home has on sustainability. One of the reasons climate change experts have had a hard time getting people to change their habits is the impact is hard to see. But even in the early days of the global response to COVID, we are starting to see a dramatic reduction in traffic, congestion, and pollution. While sadly, sustainability has not been a primary driver of remote work in recent years, being able to actually see the difference it can make might finally flip the switch for employers and employees. Lost my spot. Taxes, oh man. I would lose my spot right on the taxes. Don't fire me, Vertex. Nothing is certain in this life but death and taxes. And the tax man cometh, my friends. For anyone new to graphs, when they run downward like red paint, you have serious problems. How serious? Well, by comparison, the 2001 recession and the Great Recession of 2009, the one that created the housing crisis, those were walks in the park when set alongside the projected state budget shortfalls of 20 and 21. On the next slide, we will see what to expect from service industries are the hardest hit. In a previous life, I actually worked in the hotel industry for 15 years, and many of my closest friends are still in hospitality, and these people have some of the very hardest hit financially. Airlines, cruise lines, hotels, casinos, sporting venues, it will be a long time before these businesses will fully recover. Many of them are projected to never be truly the same in operational SOPs and safety standards. Depending upon how aggressively a state handled the COVID shutdown or relied upon industries hardest hit by the quarantine, states ended up in varying degrees of financial crisis. What you see here is a list of the bottom 15 who were hit the hardest. Now, if you live or operate a business from these states, you can predict fairly certainly that there will be changes in regulations and new ballot initiatives to overcome that shortfall. On the next slide, you'll see that these policies will not all be tax increases or new taxes. Many industries will be granted dispositions that allow them to reduce their tax burdens and recover their business. Many international hotel chains have already been granted a VAT exemption, as an example. However, your company tax departments are subject to multiple reviews, like government auditors, Sarbanes-Oxley, Attest International Audit, financial accounting, and managing the collection, remittance, and subsequent reviews of tax data was complicated before COVID. There are more than 11,000 global tax jurisdictions. So the evolving landscape of tax is even more daunting, as you'll see on the next slide. It's not just the number of jurisdictions and those rates and rules, it's the different rates for each jurisdiction. And the rates are constantly changing. Product taxability changes because of business model. Let's say your restaurant started using a delivery service during COVID. Did you know that tax in most jurisdictions is different for dine-in food versus food intended for home consumption? Did your company pivot to start making masks or hand sanitizer? Do you know what those new tax implications might be? What about tax exempt transactions? How do you manage and document exemptions at your company? Where is your tax calculated? Was it where I ship from? Was it the ship to address or shipping fees taxed? If you're using a marketplace facilitator to deliver or a delivery service, do you understand what that means for your tax responsibility? Did I know that a marketplace facilitator is responsible for collecting, remitting, reporting, and defending in an audit their third-party sales to state and local tax authorities? I recently learned that. The shift to e-commerce means more credit versus cash revenues. Everybody is buying with their credit cards online, ordering from Amazon. So what are the tax implications of that? So my final prediction, if you're not availing yourself of a tax automation solution in the coming months, you're going to miss something. You will incur risk. Your company will owe money it never imagined before. And so you do need a partner. And luckily for you, I know a guy. So we're all here to help. It's a great conversation to be having right now. And I look forward to watching the rest of the show with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shannon. Appreciate that. Ship-ageddon and shop-ageddon are terms that I can get behind. So I'll probably be using those. So thank you.
Trademarked.
Okay, so before we move into the industry panel, there are a couple more thank yous that I want to drop. I try to kind of spread these out so I don't take up too much time individually for all of those. They kind of get lost in the shuffle then. But there were two peers of mine and good friends of the firm of Irish Titan that I think helped provide an inspiration and a lot of guidance along the way to the event. Paul Botts from Good Leadership and Mark Miller from Imagine IT. So thanks for all the feedback, the ideas, the Q&A about the best way to approach this, and thanks for all the help over the years. And then also I want to mention a big shout out, a big thank you to MCN6, who's hosting us here in their studio. They put on a great event for Team Women. And that's when I started to feel like this is the way we should go. They've been extremely professional. They're real pros. They've hosted us. They really had their act together, allowed us to bring our shenanigans here in the studio. So big thank you to MCN6. Now, let's get started with our industry panel. So we have an industry panel every year solely for the expertise and insights that those of us who are in the industry providing the services to merchants try to bring to the table. And so our industry panelists this year are going to help us get a sense of what might be coming down the river soon, what hopefully is going to be a better 2021, right? And how e-commerce will continue to grow into that year. And so we're really looking forward to the panelists this year. Let me introduce them and then we'll start to pull them in virtually here. So Brightpearl's Global Director of Product Marketing is Sara Arthrell. Sara, can you raise your hand a little bit so we know which one you are, right? BigComerce's Director of Sales is Kelly Ferris. She's on the top left of the screen as it's showing for me. ShipStation's Head of Industry Relations and Strategic Partnerships, Krish Iyer, is joining us. Hi, Krish. And Attentive's Vice President of Agency Partnerships, Greg Portnoy. So Greg, thanks for joining the fun. And let me pull up our questions here so that we can start the dialogue. Sara, let's start with you. Broad question, and obviously the pandemic and COVID is going to be a consistent theme through a lot, if not most of the questions, but how have consumer buying behaviors changed here since the pandemic?
It's a good question. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously been a very steady shift toward e-commerce happening for the last few years as we've seen more and more businesses go online. But COVID-19 has massively accelerated the growth of e-commerce. And I saw actually just last week, I think it was IBM's US retail index said that this pandemic has accelerated e-commerce by 5 years. So as a result of this just massive growth that's basically happened overnight, this has now caused a very drastic shift in the way that consumers buy, but also the way that merchants therefore have to sell. And we researched this topic very recently and found that almost 80% of US consumers will be buying online more frequently over the next 12 months. So obviously some pretty steady growth there, but even more interesting is 2/3 of consumers say that within the next 5 years, they can see themselves only shopping online. So it's these influences from the pandemic that have really created a new type of consumer, a consumer that not just wants to shop online, but in some instances actually has to shop online. So it's really up to retailers to start adhering to just that new demand and if they want to remain competitive. So that can include things like, new ways of fulfillment, or maybe selling on some new sales channels, offering different delivery options, maybe expanding your return window, whatever that strategy is. Now is the time to think about it, because as some of those stats tell us, this is behavior that is really here to stay.
Kelly, let's build on Sarah's answer there about how buying behaviors are changing. So let's build on that into products. So which products are selling, which products aren't here during the pandemic? I know there's this notion, this category of new essentials that has emerged. Interested to hear your take on that.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we've seen several different patterns over the course of this pandemic, and it'll be interesting to see what happens in the coming months. There's a sense that post-January, things go back to normal, but I think we're living in a world right now where we're coming to the rally that this is the new normal. And so it'll be interesting to see what new waves of trends will happen. But what we've seen so far, at least from my platform's point of view, is generally everybody's up in online revenues for the most part. But there are pockets that really won out. Consumer packaged goods, as we might imagine, things for the home that you're trying to ship in, PPE supplies, those are things that you would expect to be up. We saw office supplies as people are making the return to working from home. It'll be interesting to see if shutdowns continue, if people make a renewed investment in additional home supplies. We also see that the market is now more available with inventory for those home supplies, or office supplies. We also saw that there was a pause in some large expenditure purchases. And so that ranged from luxury goods to maybe home furniture purchases, as people didn't know what to expect. But as the pandemic went on, some of those large purchases started opening up. So we saw a large investment in home goods, furniture, at-home decorating supplies. Those saw an increase midsummer and seemed to be on a steady rise. Fashion had an interesting pause at the beginning of the pandemic. And as we see retailers change their mix, you can also see that some of the retail spend for fashion is actually coming back. The other thing that's interesting in all of this is the vice category. So you can't have the internet without some vice categories, right? We saw an interesting trend where there's some panic at the very beginning, and it held out. CBD is one that I'm particularly interested in, and I watch. It took a little bit of a dip, but I actually see CBD recovering from consumer spend. And those that did not sell well online are what you expect: in-person events, travel, business supplies for in the office, and some luxury goods still have not recovered. That's what we're seeing right now.
So, Greg, let's bounce over to you. These products that are selling, people are finding them one way or another. So let's look at this through a marketing lens. So e-commerce adoption, penetration, usage is all increased. We've talked about that, but brand loyalty's decreased. It's actually gone down. The statistics show that that consumers are switching brands more frequently now that they've adopted e-commerce at a greater rate. So what should merchants be doing to market effectively and attempt to increase that brand loyalty and ultimately achieve brand loyalty?
Yeah, definitely. So, I mean, I think the important thing to do here is to recognize the difference between an issue that can be quickly resolved and a problem that will cause long-term harm. So a recent Wharton study even found that the 3 most frequent problems concerning customer loyalty were related to product availability, but the problems most damaging to customer loyalty were related to customer experience, which means that customer experience now encompasses the entire life cycle. It's no longer just what's happening in the store. It's no longer just the employees that you have, but it's their entire digital experience. And so you have to really have that buttoned up as a brand from first interaction with a brand to even the post-purchase communication. So merchants need to connect with customers on the channels that they prefer in the way that's personalized. And so the trick to doing that at scale, of course, is why we're all here and what we're talking about, which is technology. And technology becomes invaluable here. Specifically in our space with text message marketing, we see that the triggered messages based on some sort of subscriber behavior based, such as a browse abandonment or a cart abandonment, a lot of the same campaigns that you typically see in the email space, those are the ones that drive repeat purchases and positive reviews. And all of this can be customized. You now have data. Data is king. You have it in your every single platform that we're talking about here. And if you unify that data and you actually communicate with your customer, their demographics, their shopping habits, the devices that they use, to Kelly's point, and actually tailor your marketing strategy to their wants and needs, you're actually going to see much, much more loyalty. And the whole goal of tying that all together and making sure that the customer experience, even now the way that they interact with your brand, from a live chat on your site to an email or a text message, it all needs to be unified. And the better that customer experience is, the more likely they're going to be to come back to your brand, rather than try to start that all over with another untested brand.
Krish, let's pull you in. I think a lot of what we've discussed so far is, the pre-checkout sort of strategies. Greg just touched on marketing. The pre-checkout sort of strategies get a lot of the sizzle. There's kind of the skin deep things that you can wrap your head around. You can maybe say they're the whiskey. The post-checkouts maybe the potatoes. So let's switch to some of the post-checkout trends. What's been occurring there? What will remain in place after the pandemic passes? What's going to go away? What are some of those trends? Enlighten us.
Sure. Well, first off, Stuart, you had me at whiskey. But jokes aside here, what I would say is I personally don't like to necessarily look at it as pre and post checkout. I'm really looking at what's a continuum, and the challenge is that for a long time people looked at it as, okay, it's really a moment of truth. It's a transaction. The word transaction gives us a sense that it's temporary, and really it's a journey with the customer. What do I mean by that? So we've seen a lot more pre-checkout, to your point, about the idea of where are you communicating delivery promise, where are you communicating inventory availability, where are you communicating all of those things. But really it is now a journey and a continuum. And I think a lot of retailers are realizing that. Tracking information, for example, you have to communicate that delivery promise before the checkout, well before the checkout, along with the inventory, during the moment of truth of the checkout process, and afterwards, and not just with that very passive, oh, here's the tracking number, go have at it. But it's a real continuum and a real relationship. So the more things change, the more they stay the same, in the idea that the relationship really between the retailer and the consumer is what matters most of all. But as far as temporary, I really hope changes such as some of the carrier policies that they've had about delivery and temporary peak season surcharges. Let's hope that's temporary. Let's also hope that some of the international markets that are not accepting mail-in parcels or having 30, 60, or 90-day lead times, let's hope that's not permanent. But as far as other permanent changes, in addition to not only delivery promise, but that continuum that I mentioned, changes such as buy online, pick up in store, curbside. We all know curbside pickup's a thing, but if I were to have a crystal ball, I'm going to predict that curbside returns are going to be a thing. 2021, mark my words, 2021 will be the year of curbside returns. And finally, the last change that I think we're seeing that's going to be permanent is the idea that people are going to be more comfortable initiating a return from home. What do I mean by that? The reality is that not only me, but for the many hundreds of people watching, when you have a return, you typically do one thing. You leave it in your car for 2 weeks. So if you're anything like me, Lord knows I have some returns in my car that were pre-pandemic. So the idea here is, because returns are messy, they're uncomfortable. You want to take it somewhere just because it feels weird and kind of icky. So, but now more than ever, you're seeing retailers and consumers making returns easier, just the process overall, no quibble returns policies, but also people, those weirdos that actually have ink in their ink cartridges in their printer. I mean, some of those weirdos that actually are able to print out the shipping label from home and even initiate the packaging. And pre-pandemic, we really saw a push to return in person, even if it wasn't that retailer, things like Kohl's, things like going into the UPS store. But now we're seeing that the consumer might be a bit more comfortable initiating that whole process from home. So in the future, in 2021, in addition to maybe curbside returns, are we going to see things that make it more comfortable and easy for the consumer to initiate returns from home? Let's take a look at that at trends in 2021.
Interesting. Every year there's a little nugget that someone drops that seems to be sort of obvious in a good way and self-evident that I hadn't thought of and or hadn't read or heard. Last year, Jay from BigComerce talked about that he was surprised that retailers hadn't done a special day, online merchants hadn't done a special day where they would donate a certain percentage of their proceeds to a nonprofit to sort of combat Amazon. And your notion of curbside returns is probably going to win that prize this year, in my mind. That's a good idea.
It's my 7-minute abs business idea, just like the movie Something About Mary.
It's been a while since there have been very many Something About Mary references. We're dating ourselves. So, Kelly, let's build on some of those sorts of concepts in the sense that D2C or B2C, depending on how you want to refer to it, tends to get a lot of the e-commerce buzz, a lot of the press, but B2B is growing at a faster rate. It's also less sexy, sort of like the post-checkout part of the continuum, to use Krish's terminology. So what are some of the trends that you're seeing in manufacturers moving online now?
Yeah, thank you for asking that question. I love working with manufacturers. I think they're about to be sexy. They're getting to capitalize on all of these trends that other retailers have been pioneering. And like Sara mentioned, projects are accelerating by 5 years. So when I talk to manufacturers right now, they're enthusiastic. They want to bring forward things that are commonplace in their everyday buying experiences online. And what Greg mentioned about the customer experience, manufacturers are now thinking about the online customer experience. That's forcing them to think about new skill sets they need for their company. My team actually gets to work with manufacturers who are thinking about going online for the very first time. And I'll tell you the story that we hear all day, every day. We probably have the same exact conversation about 100 times a month. It is a father-son. They come in, the son is about to buy the business from the dad. The son has this great idea to take the business online. And through that, we get to observe all of these change management issues that occur, because you're really forcing a company that's probably established and probably has a lot of processes and procedures offline. You're forcing them to do something different. And so moving online can be actually extremely emotional for manufacturers, because you're forcing them to think outside the box, and they haven't had to do that in a very long time. So it's really this millennial generation that's starting to get into leadership positions, that are starting to get in key buying roles. I spoke to a manufacturer the other day that's starting to sense, they don't have an e-commerce component today, but they've got a chat component, and they can already sense from the chat that people are looking for an e-commerce experience. So they're sensing from their buyers that an e-commerce experience is necessary. And then others are also looking to use this as a moment to expand into new markets. And for at the macro level, an online store looks like a great cost-effective way to get into an online market, but one that they're still a little afraid of. The other interesting trend that's happening for manufacturers is this relationship between a website and a traditional sales staff. That can be complicated. It's one of those other change management items that come up that you have to talk to people through. And really the choice comes down to whether or not that manufacturer has a highly customized product that requires some explanation that has traditionally been done through a sales force, or do they have a bit of their portfolio that is more like parts, things that can be reordered frequently. Are they looking to make that reorder process simpler, lower cost per order? And that's another place where a website can come in. What I think will be interesting in the years to come are trends that we're seeing right now in fashion retailers or home good retailers with the augmented reality, where you can, pop it up and see what that item looks like in your house. I think we'll have another online innovation in a few years where we start to see manufacturers of complex pieces of equipment start to blur the lines over how the website helps sell complex items through augmented reality.
Any comments from the rest of the panel? As we've been through a few questions and have our rhythm, I want to make sure we have some dialogue. This is one of the challenges of not being next to each other with the body language and feeding off of each other. Any comments, Krish, Greg, Sara, that you want to chime in on Kelly's comments around manufacturers going online?
Yeah, I've got, to Kelly's point about manufacturers going online, I think 2021, we're going to really see a trend about the B2B marketplaces becoming a lot more popular. I'd be remiss if I didn't say ShipStation, we have a great integration to Alibaba, but in addition to Alibaba, you're going to start really seeing Amazon Business, obviously quite expansive, but a lot of other ones popping up in 2021 that I think really appeal to a lot of those manufacturers that are trying to bring their business online, and in many cases for the first time, and really crossing that trust divide, and that's usually one of the biggest impediment, in addition to just the fear factor about technology and something new, is that trust threshold. So I think that we'll see some of that addressed in 2021 e-commerce for manufacturers.
All right, so let's shift back to a little bit more conceptual, strategic sorts of questions. With the rush to e-commerce, we've seen a whole host of challenges arise for retailers. So what can these retailers, what can these merchants do to future-proof their businesses? There are going to be unpredictable spikes in demand, in supply, trends in shopping, the shipping, et cetera. So maybe, Sara, why don't you give us some thoughts on how you think some of these merchants can future-proof their businesses?
Yeah, I mean, this is what makes the world of e-commerce so fun, right? Just when we think we've got it all figured out, something completely changes it, flips it on its head. With this crazy rush to e-commerce and all of the new challenges that are coming out, I've spent some time with retailers just talking about what their plans are to implement either like huge business-wide sweeping changes or maybe something a little bit more smaller and tactical. But in either of those scenarios, one of the things that has been obvious is it comes down to how agile and flexible a merchant can be if they want to be able to survive. So whatever it is you decide to implement or to change in your business, really think about how quickly you can do it and how efficiently that change can be done. And also by doing so, how minimal is the interruption going to be to your business? What I've seen happen over the last few months is brands try to respond to these changes without necessarily thinking it through. And as a result, the consumer suffers, which then means the brand suffers. And since this whole pandemic has begun, Brightpearl actually in our own research has learned that almost 40% of US shoppers have been let down by an online order. They either got the wrong item or maybe they never got the item at all, or maybe the returns process was too cumbersome. Whatever it was, it impacts that individual shopper's experience, obviously, but then that customer is probably going to go online and leave a review, which then digs your business into this even deeper hole. So retailers really have to work extra hard to prevent this friction from happening in the first place, or they're going to be forced to react. And sometimes, unfortunately, the reaction is too late. Consumers are fickle, they're unforgiving, and you're not going to get a second chance to prove yourself. A little bit to Greg's point earlier around loyalty, right, is perfecting that customer experience, which is why that prevention is so key. And when it comes to preventing that friction, really think about what that experience is like for your customer across the entire buying journey, paying special attention to what happens after a customer hits the buy button. So that's inventory and fulfillment, returns, and really where you can improve in those areas to actually align with new consumer buying behavior. So for instance, let's say inventory management, having enough inventory to meet demand, but not so much that you've got tons and tons of money tied up in your overstock. Or when we talk about fulfillment, 60% of consumers told us that they plan to use buy online, pick up in store over the next year. So how are you as a retailer going to support that expectation? Returns, right? Like the biggest pain that we all face, but 70% of consumers are asking for more flexible return options, and 51% say they want free returns. So as a retailer, it's your responsibility to respond to that. And how are you going to do it? If you haven't made or even thought about these types of decisions yet, I know it's scary, but you're not alone. We actually had half of retailers tell us that, yeah, you know what? They haven't made any changes to their business models since COVID started, despite 43% of them saying that, their business is actually not going to survive a second wave of this virus. So it's really important to lean on your tech partners, like the folks that you've got here, for guidance. Do your research on what sort of solutions are out there that can help you guys get through this. Now is the time to be proactive. I think we've all learned a lot of lessons since this got started back in March. Now it's time to actually implement some of those learnings.
Kelly, based on some of our conversations, I'm guessing that you might have some thoughts or points of view around that future-proofing discussion. Do you want to share any of those?
I think when it comes to future-proofing your business, you really need to align yourself and make sure you have the right support group around you. And that can come from other people in e-commerce. I mean, that's probably why you're at this event today, to learn from others, to try to identify leaders in the competencies that you need to strengthen. So I would challenge you more than ever, you really need to make a bridging connection, maybe outside of your organization, or you need to challenge back the vendors that you are using to put up your websites and beg them for some input. I think everybody right now has got a point of view, especially for this holiday season. There's some mixed emotions on, will this look like a traditional increase or not? But you need to have your core team together and surround yourself with some experts and make those relationships right now, because January will be interesting. The spring will be interesting. Next summer will be interesting. So you're going to need groups of people that on a periodic basis you can collaborate with and feed ideas off of.
Good point. Good point. We're going to shift to an Amazon question. So for any of you maybe playing a drinking game at home and taking a shot every time Amazon gets mentioned, you can fill your shot glass and throw that back right now. Krish, you have a lot of marketplace insights. What are some of the considerations before selling on those marketplaces, and what are some of the differences between those marketplaces, so Amazon and others?
Sure. Well, I think in light of COVID, I'll answer it and just kind of under that prism of marketplaces. And really the word here is inventory, inventory, inventory. Inventory is king. Inventory is sexy. Inventory drives your purchase, meaning when it comes to your marketplace strategy, where are you going to get the most bang for your buck in terms of not only the most visibility of your inventory, but what's that balancing act between segmenting inventory for one channel like an Amazon versus segmenting inventory for a different channel, and how do you balance that based on the typical commission that and fees that marketplace may have? What I'd also say here is that when it comes to marketplaces, do they have specialized programs that actively recruit my type of product? Great example, I was talking to Newegg, and actually they have a fair amount of home and garden and apparel sales. Obviously, most of us think of Newegg more along the lines of electronics, small electronics, things of that nature, but they actually have a fairly strong business in apparel. And so they do actively try to create programs and incentives for those types of sellers. So the point is, when it comes to marketplaces, you really got to take a look at what is that balancing act between my inventory visibility, like I said, the commission structure that is in place with those marketplaces, and really what kind of specialized programs do those marketplaces maybe have to either give me a better commission rate or to give me more visibility, or marketplace tools, resources, programs that can ultimately help you grow your sales on those marketplaces. So that's what I would say there. And that's a great bridge into, at some point, hopefully we'll talk about cross-border and international. I do think the marketplaces are a great place to start with if you want to grow your international sales.
Great. Before we move on to the next question, this is what gives my team heartburn, because I'm already changing the script. We're going to add a fourth prize that we'll give to whoever in Slack can answer what's changed in this picture since the beginning of the panel. So Jack, you're in charge of seeing who comes up with that, all right? I want to switch over to some marketing questions, and so let's go to Greg, both because of marketing and no offense to anybody else, but he has my favorite background of the day so far for a Zoom background. Greg, more consumers are becoming mobile first, so what can e-commerce brands do to stand out from their competitors and engage these shoppers in this mobile first world?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm glad you like the background. You said to have fun, and this is how I interpreted that request. So
well, you succeeded.
I'm glad you like it. Awesome. Always happy to please you, Darin. So yeah, mobile first is something that's been coming up for a long time, but we've really seen this just expand exponentially during the pandemic. Between the middle of March and the middle of April, we actually saw an increase of about 50% in folks signing on to our text message marketing programs, and the majority of that actually happens on mobile web. 95% of Americans own a smartphone, and text messaging is the most popular use of the smartphone, and nearly 80% of consumers say they want to hear from brands via text messaging. So why wouldn't you also make sure that the entire mobile experience is actually aligned and very positive? We talked about loyalty already. It really matters, and consumers, they're not in our industry, they're not brands, they're not e-commerce techies, so they're not thinking like, oh, they're taking a while to develop their mobile experience, they're waiting to get a PWC, a progressive web app set up, or something like that. They just see what their experience is like on Amazon, for that previous question, or some of these other larger brands and retailers, and that's just what they expect across the board, because they don't really know what goes into it in the background. So bridging that gap between marketing and sales on mobile devices is more important than ever. 50% of Americans access social media using mobile devices, but a lot of brands aren't leveraging social media for sales. Our platform itself allows now consumers to actually sign up for a text message marketing program through an Instagram advertising swipe up. So you're engaging them where they are. And then once you've actually engaged them, you have to make the entire mobile experience frictionless. Your subscribers receive text messages on their phone. They can click a link that will take them directly to the product page of whatever you're trying to sell or whatever they were just browsing. And then you have to make sure that once they get to the product page, again, once they're on your site, you have to make sure that your mobile experience is actually tailored for a good experience. It's tailored for so that they're not going to bounce, so that they can pay easily. Maybe you're integrated with Apple Pay or Amazon Pay or Shopify Pay or whatever it is, but there's so many points where you can lose that consumer and have them go somewhere else because your site took too long to load or it was too difficult to put in their payment information. So making sure that you really think about that experience from A to Z is very, very important and has become only more so in this kind of new digital world that we live in.
Kelly, I know you have thoughts around marketing and mobile first and those general strategies and concepts and best practices. Anything you want to add to Greg's thoughts or in counter thoughts?
What I would add there is I think people get very excited about social and what that could do to extend their business. And so that drives a lot of interest, especially people going into e-commerce for the first time. They might have actually built up a large social presence and they're looking to monetize it. And for them, I encourage them to do a lot of research into how to take that business to market. But in general, marketing capabilities, and what you decide to put onto your store really depends on where you are in maturity and what your growth curve looks like. Again, it's one of those things that it depends on where you are, and I would, definitely seek some counsel and advice as you start layering on complexities to extend to the customer.
Greg, let's bounce back to you again. Let's stick on that marketing theme. And let's focus on holiday. That's rapidly approaching.
I mean, I think the kind of elephant in the room that we already saw actually happening a little bit last year, but that we've really seen expand this year, along with obviously everything else e-commerce related, is that the holiday season is going to be prolonged this year. I mean, I think Best Buy already started doing their sales. Amazon, just to be different, moved up their Prime Day. And we just did release a 2020 retail and e-commerce holiday marketing report, which we surveyed over 500 of our brands and found that more than half of them are actually starting their holiday season earlier. And so doing that earlier is actually something that most brands should take a look at, because not only is that going to allow you to compete kind of with everybody else and actually stay front of mind and front of wallet, but you also avoid potential supply chain and delivery issues by spreading things out. I'm sure Krish has a lot of thoughts on that, but I think it's going to be even harder this year. And so, making the most of the channels where you can engage with a sense of urgency as well. Text messaging, for example, just because that's my area of expertise, has practically 100% open rates. 90% of those messages are open in the first 3 minutes. And so you can actually engage your customer when you want to engage them, where you want to engage them. And then most importantly, I would say also stay consistent in your outreach efforts. Consumers are going to be getting bombarded by a lot of different things during this extended holiday season, but because they are more in market most likely now for whatever you're selling than they have been the rest of the year, their kind of elasticity of demand is higher. They're more open to getting more messages and more targeted messages based on what they actually want. So you can actually send more messages, send more emails, do more advertising, and really try to collect as much of that share of wallet as you can over a longer period of time.
Krish, Greg name checked you in his answer. Is there anything you want to add to that?
No, I agree with all the points here. Really and truly, these types of considerations are going to be just so important here as we close out the year and plan for 2021 and frankly beyond.
Gotcha. Kelly, let's bounce to you. One of the things that merchants have to struggle with periodically is the question of whether they should replatform, when they should replatform, how they should go about that. What are some of the considerations that they should take into account? How important should marketing considerations be? What are the other considerations? How do you balance those? What are your thoughts around the replatforming argument?
I think first you need to take into stock, what is your current platform not doing for you, and where are you going? Not just in the next season. You're not going to re-platform to just solve one problem. You're re-platforming because you're picking a partner that you believe will be with you for a very long journey. And so take stock of what's not working well so that you are not hurting yourself by just the problem that's right there in front of your face. Think about what you really want in a partnership. At least at BigComerce, we take an approach that we want to be the partner throughout your growth journey. So whether you start on BigComerce or you're multinational, large global corporation, we allow you to integrate capabilities into your e-commerce platform so that you can put in the best of breed technology. So if it's that marketing solution, If your team has a desire to work with one specific tool, you've got an e-commerce platform that will plug in and integrate to that tool. If you've got some shipping considerations that are special to your particular business need, you need to have a platform that will be able to integrate and communicate to those special needs. At the end of the day, it's about your merchant, and then it's also about you and your employees. So can you create a system that will satisfy the needs and the desires of the end consumer, but also make it a system that works well for you and your staff? It's a lot to consider when replatforming, but it's not insurmountable. We do see a lot of people at this time of year. They're suffering from decisions they made earlier this year. We're living in a different world, and there are tons of people who are coming forward saying, you know what, January 1, I must replatform. I need to start my replatforming journey. So now's the time to be thinking about what you want to do in January that's going to set you up well for 2021.
So the notion of replatforming is pervasive in our industry. So I want to make sure to open that up for the panel as a whole. Does anybody else want to chime in on Kelly's answer there and add some additional perspective or points of disagreement even?
Yeah, I want to just chime in, I think, from a replatforming standpoint too. One of the things to really pay special attention to is what the whole process of implementation looks like, because so often it's the point of contention, right? Like we talk to customers every single day who just spent a lot of money trying to implement an ERP and it failed. So they're like, they're scared, they're intimidated, and they want to know how Brightpearl is going to prevent that from happening and again. So things that we do, for instance, is all of our scoping is done upfront before you even sign a contract, so that we're showing you what our commitment will be to get you guys up and running within a certain time frame. Ask your vendor for that. Make sure that they're giving you that sort of commitment so that you can hold them accountable, but also yourself to meet those deadlines and do whatever it is that you can do within your control as that brand to really ensure that this implementation happens efficiently and successfully. Because for both us and our customers, we want to avoid the crash. So if we can sort of come together to that mutual agreement, it works in both of our favors to make sure that this happens in the right way. So ask your vendors that question. What's the implementation like? What other customers can I talk to that can speak on behalf of that implementation? Tell me about what happens if we miss deadlines. Like really, really hone in on that side of the business, because ultimately that's not just what's going to carry you through the next few months, but also, to Kelly's point, we want this to be a long-term relationship, right? So this is going to carry us year after year.
Greg, let's go to you for a second on this same theme about replatforming. As someone who is vested in and deep in the marketing side of the e-commerce equation, and that plugs into, integrates, leverages good solid platform foundations, do you have any perspective on what sort of situations, circumstances best position Attentive to be successful from using your tool? How does that maybe influence replatforming decisions? Any thoughts around that?
And I think this ties back to a lot of what we've been saying. It's really important that the data that you're collecting, be it on-site behavioral data, be it engagement data with one of your marketing channels like text messaging, anything that you're storing, your CDP, your CRM, your ESP. We talked about loyalty, and we talked about how do you engage these consumers in a way that keeps them with your brand specifically. And I think your e-commerce platform is the heart of that. At the end of the day, marketing, be it paid advertising on Google or Facebook, or text message marketing or email marketing, it all goes back to the e-commerce site. If your e-commerce site is not fast, if it's not easy to navigate, if it's not absolutely seamless, and if you're not able to push your data both into that e-commerce platform, but also pull really important purchase history, purchase behavior, on-site behavior into those various marketing channels, and actually target your customers with the things that they're interested in, with maybe the products that they've browsed that are back in stock, or things that they've, categories that are complementary to other things that they've bought. E-commerce platform needs to have all of that data, needs to be able to track all of that data. It needs to integrate really well into the rest of your marketing tech stack. And you need to be able to pass that data back and forth so you can really create the most seamless customer experience And so that that consumer doesn't really know that you're using, 20 different technology platforms. They want to feel like it's just one seamless experience, and your e-commerce platform is at the heart of that because it's the one piece that ties into everything and has to be able to interact with everything so seamlessly.
Great. That's a nice point of view to tie everything together. Krish, let's go to you for the last question to bring us home here. So we haven't talked about international at all. It's sort of not necessarily the last frontier, but it's sort of that next big step that many merchants are considering. It can be a big opportunity, but it can be sort of daunting from a shipping perspective, operational perspective, in many respects. Share with us some of your perspectives on that, suggestions, advice, and give us a path to international for some of the merchants who are curious about it.
Sure, absolutely. There's probably a lot of fear, understandably so, in 2020, even thinking about it internationally, just because got to make sure that things don't break domestically, and especially with demand, it's kind of hard to justify, especially with the complexity, to say, oh, I want to get into an international market. But I actually believe this is right now the best time to get into scoping international. Why? First off, the competition is less because everybody right now is so focused on domestic. The folks that are having a long-term vision for international really are going to win in the long term. That's first. The second is that international is complex, and although shipping lead times are horrible right now, you're going to have a more understanding customer, meaning international can have a lot of things going wrong with it, whether it's duties and taxes, shipments being held up by customs, whatever the case may be, you're going to have an international customer that's a bit more understanding now than normal. So it may be best to work out those kinks now when you have a customer that's going to forgive you a little bit easier than normal. Also, from a price sensitivity, the fact is that with limited inventory, really a lot of brands can charge a premium around their products if they want to sell them around the globe. As far as how you can move forward, what I would always say is start small. Take a look at your products and really see what's the IP traffic been, what have been the inquiries that you've had, and start with markets that are easier. Look at Canada, look at Mexico. We had a new free trade agreement that came in July, replacing NAFTA, called the USMCA, US, Mexico, Canada agreement. I was not the one who named that and came up with that really creative name, but that really helped to increase potential trade between that region and lower barriers. What I would also say is preparing for new legislation that's happening in 2021. The UK is eliminating any restrictions around VAT, meaning all shipments will be subject to a VAT. So although that means the price of the product might be higher, that does mean that people are going to be scrambling to buy items. So I do think taking a look at products that are like for like between the US tastes and preferences, and starting with markets like Canada, starting with markets like the UK, and really forgetting about markets like Russia or India or Brazil until you really have a solid strategy. The last thing that I'll say is that certainly in the partner ecosystem and app store for our friends at BigComerce and other platforms, they have a lot of cross-border apps in there to take a look at. So finding a partner that might give you a turnkey solution may be a good way to go to help reduce complexity. And finally, I would say to talk to the marketplaces you sell on. And most of them want to bring products from the US to global customers. And most of them have programs in place that to help recruit your products for sale internationally. So definitely contact your marketplace partners as well to see what they have.
Great, Krish, that's a great wrap up to a great panel. I want to extend some thanks to Brightpearl's Global Director of Product Marketing, Sara Arthrell, BigComerce's Director of Sales, Kelly Ferris, ShipStation's Head of Industry Relations and Strategic Partnerships, Krish Iyer, and Attentive's Vice President of Agency Partnerships, Greg Portnoy. Thanks for being a part of it. I think that we made the most of the Zoom virtual experience. I'm looking over here because that's where I see the screen, although I know the camera's there. I've been told to look here. I also feel like a tiger in a cage sitting here. I'm not very good at doing what I'm told, so I'm not sure how much longer I'm going to be able to do this. But thanks for working with us, and we'll be talking to you soon. Make sure to follow up with them on the Slack channel and engage with them and see what you can do to learn from them and what they can do to help you, okay? So now we are going to move on to the part of the program that I was most excited about. If your guess about what had changed from the beginning of the panel to our Ask That Question was that they were here, which I don't think you can see yet, there they are, that wasn't the answer. But here are the two panelists for our Entrepreneurs panel. So remember that the spirit of this event is to shine a spotlight on our region's e-commerce achievements to date and inspire those yet to come. If this pair of entrepreneurs doesn't do the last half of that, then nobody's going to. Because when I spoke to each of them, I was introduced to each of them, and after speaking to each of them, I realized that I had to figure out a way to give them the stage. And it became a bit of a challenge with all the different speakers that we were trying to piece together. But when I had talked to both of them is when it became an option came to me that let's bring them on stage as entrepreneurs to try to inspire those who maybe are considering kicking off their own e-commerce gig now. Maybe they were a restaurant manager, a bar manager, maybe at an Irish pub that's not open anymore. And they had a side gig, and now they are contemplating going all in and making that side gig, that side hustle, their full hustle. And I think that these two entrepreneurs are going to give us some stories that can inspire some people. So this is going to be great. I'm really excited to have this conversation. Let me open up our questions here. So, Sabrina, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us just a little bit about yourself, just a brief bio to get us going.
Just a little brief. Okay. Well, thank you, Darin. I would love to do that. So I am Sabrina Jones. I am the owner and president of SJC Body Love Products. And so our company is a product line that's geared towards those seeking to live a healthier lifestyle. So we provide alternatives to some of the over-the-counter medicines that are out there to help relieve issues caused by and associated with stress. And I started my company in 2015. I am a mom of two rambunctious boys, 8 and 5, and a wife. And I was born and raised in Minnesota.
Thanks for the intro. Mohamed, your turn. Tell us a little bit about yourself and your business.
Thank you, Darin, for having me. It's great to be here. My name is Mohamed Malim. I'm the founder and CEO of Epimonia. We are a fashion apparel company that supports refugees using refugee life jackets. We turn those life jackets into apparel line to create awareness of the refugee crisis that's currently going on. And we also provide job employment for refugees locally here. I founded this company in 2018 through a business competition at the University of St. Thomas. I'm a Tommy, and I was born in Kenya, came to the U.S. when I was 3 years old, and the last 22 years, I lived in Minnesota, so I'm a Minnesotan here.
Good. And shout out for Tommy's. I got my MBA at St. Thomas.
That's awesome.
And I was part of the judging panel for the event that you were part of. That I wasn't part of your group.
Got it, yeah. Power business competition, yeah.
While you have the floor, why don't you give us a little bit about what inspired you to start the business, right?
Yeah.
Like, give us more of that backstory so that people can really get a sense of what they can learn from and the inspirations they can draw from you.
Absolutely. For me, it's very, interesting because when I was attending college, my goal wasn't to start a business, it was getting a college degree and work for an amazing agency, advertising agency. That was one of my dreams. But things turned around, when things inspired me was when, with the whole refugee narrative, my goal is to change that narrative for refugees, especially refugees are being portrayed in a negative way. And that just struck me and inspired me to start my company, Epimonia. You know, as a former refugee myself, you know, there are a lot of great people. You know, refugees are the most hardest working people out there, and to see in the medium being labeled, you know, in a negative way, it was very sad, and that inspired me to change the narrative of how refugees are being portrayed, and that's why I started Epimonia, to support refugees and to provide them with job employments.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Thank you.
Nice.
Sabrina, your turn. Dazzle us with your story.
Yes. So I started my company based off the fact of when I was pregnant with my second child. And when you're pregnant, you go through some things. And I started just noticing a lot of changes with my hair, with my skin, getting, you know, just sick. And I kept getting referred by my doctors to use homeopathic methods. And I was like, okay, you know, what is that? And started to be told about using essential oils and things like that. And so I was kind of forced into that world. But when I started to investigate more about essential oils and started using them, and then I discovered they worked. And I just started using them, and then I started making products, and I started seeing the difference. My husband and my son at the time were like my human test subjects, and I started giving things out as gifts. And so it really went from a hobby into my business. And then I figured, I'm pretty sure that there are others out there that are either pregnant and are looking for alternatives to some of the over-the-counter medicines to deal with some other issues related to skin or sickness or, you know, those types of things. And so I just took the gamble and went with it from the encouragement of friends and family. And I'm here. I'm here.
Right. And along the way, you had a store at Gavaday Commons, right?
Yes.
And so you had some bricks and clicks going on. Give us some of the background on that, what it was like to open a store, how that worked or didn't work with e-commerce, where it stands now.
Yeah, so that was a wonderful opportunity presented to me by the way of what's called the Impact Hub. And so as a new business, I really reached out to the community for different resources and networking. And this came into play. And so the store at the Gavaday was an opportunity for businesses like myself to be able to occupy some of the vacant spaces that are out there in some of the retail malls. And so myself and a few other business owners came together and just created a really beautiful space. I had my e-commerce business, and I still do, before moving into the store. So I was kind of working both at the same time and really getting my feet wet to see, you know, is a brick and mortar really for me? And with the type of products that I sell, it's easier to be in person, to have the conversation with customers. They want to be able to smell and feel, and that engagement piece. So the store was wonderful. And I was getting ready to branch into my own store with another business owner, and when COVID kind of really showed its face.
Yay, COVID.
And yes. So when the governor shut things down, we were literally getting ready to move into the space.
Where was this other space?
And so it's still in the Gavaday, but it's on a lower level. Okay. And so it was in a space that was just really going to be like Body Love products along with TNG designs, and we were really going to, you know, have it all, that one-stop shop. And it was just exciting because it was just like, this is it. And so when COVID happened and we had to shut things down, we were like questioning, you know, what do we do? So literally I was bringing inventory home, turning the basement back into the production, manufacturing, shipping, you know, department, and just building orders through my e-commerce. And just, you know, and folks were checking in because they knew about the store, and they were actually trying to see, like, how could they come and purchase, you know, products. And so I was really grateful for that. So that's kind of where things lie. I still have that opportunity to be able to return, but really thinking through what is the best track for my business right now.
How eager are you to go back into bricks and mortar retail? Or do you even know how to answer the question right now, since there are so many unknowns?
You know, so many unknowns, and just with the processes that need to go into place. Where the store was, traffic decreased by 85%. So it was, is it worth going back into that particular location? I would love to be able to have a brick and mortar, because the ultimate dream is to be able to create a space for you to come and to be revived and rejuvenated, as well as be able to get your products and support other businesses as well in utilizing that space. So it's not just for what I do, but for others. So it's coming, but I'm focusing on e-commerce.
Was there any integration or alignment between your brick and mortar operation and your e-commerce? Like, did you have Shopify POS, for example, or?
So with that, I was working off of two different integrations. So I was working off of Wix with Square, and I was, working off of that and in the store because we had one point of sale to make it easier for the customer, so that they didn't have to go and spend and use their card with 5 different vendors, because we were sharing that space.
Oh, sure.
And so I was managing that platform, and then when COVID hit and I moved everything home, I joined Shopify because I wanted to be able to meet the B2C demand as well as the B2B. And that's what I was doing, was building up those business partnerships to also increase where my products were, because clients wanted to be able to have a space to come and buy my products. And so e-commerce was just, it was, limited.
Yep.
And so, I was working the two, and it was just like, so now I'm just like on Shopify, easier to manage.
Sure, right. Mohamed, let's move over to you. Sabrina talked about bricks and mortar as one of the ways she grew her business. You haven't had a retail operation, but you've grown your business both online and with some offline methods.
Yes.
So fill us in on that.
Absolutely. One of my strategy when I was starting my business was, how can I grow my business, And e-commerce was the best thing that ever happened to me, Since I'm very social media savvy, one of the strategies that we used was Facebook advertising and Twitter ads and Instagram ads, and also news channels, that was very interesting, telling my story out there and hitting up as many news stations out there, and that was the beginning of my branding awareness, and that has been a very success. And we're currently running Facebook ads and Instagram ads, and that has been a great success and growth for our e-commerce brand. We're thinking about moving into the retail aspect, but not currently right now because of the COVID, obviously. But I feel like retail would eventually help us grow as well. Obviously with our product, our bracelet, it has a story behind it, it creates awareness and it starts a conversation, and it's been great with our ads and with our social media platforms. So, yeah.
And what about networking? Because that's one of the things when you and I spoke on the phone, you talked about that you've been intentional and strategic about networking as a way to grow your business too, which a lot of people, I think when they go down an e-commerce path, don't take into consideration that you still got to lean in. It's a knife fight, and networking it can make a difference. So how have you used that?
That's a great question, Darin. For me, when I graduated from college, I actually was on a college tour. I literally hit up as many colleges prior before going on tour. I've managed to email more than, I would say, 100 colleges. I was like, hey, can I come to your college campus and speak about my company and share my story, And interesting, these college campuses were very excited about my company, and they invited me to speak. And that was a network strategy I've tackled, and it was amazing, because it got me to do more speaking gigs, and at the same time share my brand story, and it's been a great success, And I visited over 25 colleges, I would say, in 2018. Just literally, hustled my way up. So
that's cool.
Yeah,
gotta hustle.
Yeah, you gotta hustle indeed.
Hustle,
That's part of it.
Yeah. So what's been more difficult than you expected from when you started Epimonia? What's been more of a challenge than you would have guessed?
Yeah, absolutely. For me, obviously when you start a company, it's, the number one goal is seeking capital. For me was that. But there was a lot of challenges down the road where I had to, seek investors. Tell my story. How this product is amazing, that it's gonna work. Had to convince them, but it wasn't like that. And for me, it was like, if these investors don't believe in me, I'm gonna find a way to show them. And one of the strategies I've used was hitting up, becoming my own PR, I would say, literally, going on Twitter, hitting BuzzFeed, hitting up now this CBS, and that helped me grow my brand awareness. And that's, literally without having a background of PR, it was just literally sharing my story out there. And hey, I'm a young entrepreneur coming out of college, and this is my story. This is my company. Would you guys give me a chance to write a story on that? And it's been a great success for me, especially with the PR angle.
Right.
Yeah. So.
Sabrina, how about you? What was more difficult, more challenging than you expected?
Oh my gosh.
Besides everything.
Yeah.
Right. Like, how do I narrow that down? I mean, it's been exciting along the way, but a lot of the challenges, like Mohamed mentioned, were the capital and seeking resources, and being an African-American woman that owns, a business. We're not seen. We're, representing about 21% in businesses that are owned by women. And without the resources and the capital, we're here and we're wanting to be seen. And so it was with that networking. And so one of the things that has helped is reaching out to different organizations that I've joined in partnership, from the Activate Network to the Black Chamber of Commerce, the St. Paul Chamber of Commerce, and just really making those connections and just saying, hey, this is me, this is where I am. This is what I can do for you. But also just that learning piece, because that truly helped me, because I don't have a business major. I just have a love for what I do. And so that was probably the difficult piece. And then just kind of backing that train up, because again, it was a hobby that picked off so fast that I had to kind of put the rest of the caboose kind of together as I went. So like building that team and the financing and just figuring out, the production piece and where do I get my supplies, and, with COVID, with things increasing and that demand, just being able to meet that need for the customer so that they're not frustrated, that they can have access to it as usual. So.
And just because Sabrina mentioned him, I'm going to do a couple of name checks here, which also harken back to Mohamed's point about networking, right? Because I met Carl. Carl from the Black Chamber of Commerce introduced us.
Yes.
I met him through his wife, Michelle. We met when she was with the zoo. And BrandLab actually introduced us.
That's right.
Right. Yep. So pay it forward.
Absolutely.
So we're going to do a lightning round. Although this isn't really a lightning round because that's supposed to be really fast, right?
Yep.
But I wanted to do what I'm calling a shamrock round, just because I wanted to say shamrock round.
Okay.
So last question. What is it that you are most proud of that you've accomplished with Body Love products? And then the same thing's coming to you.
Absolutely.
Moving forward, even though it just through the unknown and being happy with myself and not getting down on myself with the mistakes that I have made, and really having to forgive yourself, because going through this process, you're just learning things, and I'm still here 5 years later. I'm going to be here 20 years later. And so that is the confidence that I have that just helps me to continue to push forward and grow.
Great. Mohamed?
As a young Black entrepreneur in town, one of the things I would say that I'm proud of is taking that risk in college, starting my business, having that courage, I tell my fellow peers out there, like literally, personally, 90% of the work you do is starting a business. That's how you win. And for me, I would say, taking that risk and just literally hustling my way up there, and just having that grit, I would say took me further and in life, and having that passion, and just inspiring a lot of people around the world, So that's what
you have to jump off the cliff, make the net,
jump off the cliff,
down.
literally,
Or build a plane. And
You
go
have
down.
to have trust in making that second decision, because your first decision is oftentimes wrong.
Literally.
Right?
But you learn and you grow, and that's what it's about.
Right, yeah.
Absolutely.
So kudos to both of you. Thanks for being a part of the panel. Congrats to everything you've accomplished. And I think you conveyed exactly what I wanted. So I hope there's some listener out there in Zoom land somewhere in their sweats or whatever they're wearing that heard these two talk and is like, now I'm going to go start my own e-commerce business.
Yes.
So thanks, guys.
Thank you, Darin.
Thank you.
I was going to stand up, but I don't think I can. So anyway, we're going to get to our first break now. So everybody who registered in time received a sponsor box. And the sponsor box has a variety of things. There's a flask, there's a glass, there's a power bank, a Bluetooth speaker. It's like a party in a box. So now's the time to fill up that flask if you need to. Go for a high octane, low octane, no octane drink, whatever is your preference. and we'll be back in a few minutes. If you didn't catch Magician Matt leading up to the official kickoff, he's going to jump on the live stream, and I'm sure he has a few tricks up his sleeve or up whatever his code or whatever tricks he has going on the other side of that Zoom screen. So enjoy him, and we'll be back in a few. See you on the other side.
Well, hello there, Ecomm Forum. I'm Greg Portnoy, Head of Agency Partnerships here at Attentive. Attentive is a leading text message marketing platform that innovative brands and organizations use to automatically send engaging text messages to their subscribers at every step of the customer lifecycle. Over 2,000 innovative brands and organizations like Sephora, Uniqlo, and Pura Vida rely on Attentive to see strong performance like 30% click-through rates, 25x ROI, and 18.5% incremental digital revenue. We're super excited to be supporting Irish Titan's Ecomm Forum this year because, as we all know, e-commerce is no longer a preference for consumers. It's a necessity. COVID-19 has accelerated the shift to online retail and made it even more important than ever for industry leaders and brands to come together and chart a successful path forward. So we hope you enjoy the content today, and we're very excited to meet all of you.
Back to the magic portion here of the Zoom Irish Titans fun time. It's fun. We're back to the fun part. That's all that matters. By the way, how about those those last two panels? Holy moly, that was fantastic. I didn't watch any of it, but good for you folks. Oh, the magic show. Earlier, you saw me, Matt Dunn, do a stage show. That's what we call it because there's a stage and it's a show. And then a lot of times what people have me do is they'll have me do something called close-up magic, where I will come right in front of your face and do magic, which as of late has been very, very popular, just in the toilet, almost unemployed. And I thought, well, this could be a fun thing to do right now on camera. So earlier I said to the tech team, all the people that are making this thing run, I said, don't tell me what it is, but I want you, when it comes time, to type a card, a playing card, into the chat box. I'm going to have them do that right now because I have felt like I was very distracted, like they were thinking of a card this entire time. This is not pre-arranged. If I was in person with you, we would do this right here. They're going to type a card. They've typed a card. We have the 8 of hearts. It's very good. Look at this. Inside of my jacket pocket, I have a pack of cards. This would happen if we were in person live. One card in the entire deck had been turned over, and that was the 8 of hearts. Come on, Paul, again, you're the only one here. Woo! Thank you. In person, it's a lot more magical. It's very fun. This is also the only blue one in there. How about that? Come on, people. These are miracles. Speaking of miracles, you know why Darin likes me, and boy, do I like that guy. He's just fantastic gentleman. He's had me come to several different events, and nice of him to include me in on this. So thanks, everybody at Irish Titans. He has said to me over the mat, he'll pull me aside and go, Matt, make some money, multiply. And you know what? People have said that to me over the years. I usually do that for myself. Look at this. There is 1, 2, 3, 4 $1 bills. There's 4 $1 bills. I'm going to do this as slowly as I can. I'll warn you, it happens right at my fingertips. Watch very closely. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 $20 bills. 1, 2, 3. Look at this. We have a comment from Darin. Actually, Darin Lynch said, "Marry me." Okay, that's inappropriate. Too far. Okay, good. Very good. Huh? These aren't really 20s though, folks. These are in fact still the ones. You can see how fast and quickly they go back to the ones. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4 ones. I can take your money, folks. Don't take mine. Bad idea. Just terrible. Well, hey, enough of the close-up magic. We got time here to do one more trick here, folks. It's come to my attention that people at my regular show love the animals. They just go nutso for these things. And I thought, I need a new animal in my show. And I started asking friends and family, and people said, how about a snake? I said, how about no? Someone else said, how about a beautiful white tiger? I said, that'll be great at all the birthday parties I perform at. Where is the birthday boy? Well, there he is. He's dead. No. Got to get something else. I went to a farm. I started looking around. I found just the perfect new animal. She's here for the big finale. Ladies and gentlemen, it's Gretchen the chicken. Come on. Look at this. What did I charge for this? This is a deal. Come on. Right there. And let's, oh, this is left over from our first segment. Let's get that out of the way. That's a little offensive. Oops. Excuse me. Well, I said to the farmer, I said, well, now what can Gretchen do? And he said, you know, nothing. Absolutely zippo. In particular, he said she can't fly. So he said, Matt, if you're planning on doing one of those beautiful bird acts like you see at the zoo where they fly in from over your head and a couple of hair pieces go missing, then it's not going to happen. I said, well, then that's the challenge. Gretchen's going to be the first flying chicken. She's going to fly so fast and so quickly, kaboom, you're not even going to see her. Paul, my assistant Paul, the big finale, we got to take this up a notch. We have a song or some music. Give me something chicken. I like it. That's good. And the bucket. I almost forgot the bucket. Look at this. Got this from the farmer too. Uses this to feed all of his animals here. Empty bucket, empty bucket, empty bucket. There we go. That goes over here. Keep one eye on the bucket and one eye on the bird. And the box. Almost forgot the box. Excuse me. It's important. It makes the whole thing work. Got this one from the magic shop here. For that. Yeah, very good. Right there. Gretchen, you get ready. Everyone watching, you get mentally prepared to see a miracle. Look at this. Look at the neck coordination. She knows exactly where she's headed. Look at the left wing. There we go. Yep. Go and up. 1 second here, folks. Unbelievable. It's a live Zoom show and anything can happen, and we'll edit it out later. And magic. Gretchen has flown the coop and it's flown all the way. Hey, that's not Gretchen. Oh, there's the rabbit. Let's go over here. Let's see if she made it like this. There she is. Yeah, come on. It's a flying chicken. Oh, how about that? Well, folks, there it is. You've wasted another perfectly good chunk of your life here at the Matt Dunn Magic Show. How exciting for you all. It's way past my lunch, but luckily, we're ready to go. Have a nice rest of the afternoon, folks. Good to see you all. Thanks, everybody at Irish Titans.
Welcome back to Ecom Forum 2020. We're in the home stretch now. We have a few industry spotlights, and then we have the headliners, the merchant panel. So remember, a couple reminders. Slack's very engaged. There's a lot of activity going on out there, but just for anybody who's jumping on now, make sure to go out to the Slack channels. You can engage with all of the speakers. There's the general channel with all the riffraff. Feel free to send pictures. We have quite a few pictures that have been shared on the Slack channel, so that's one of the ways we're trying to make sure it's engaging and that people are having some fun. Also, remember we pinned a couple of links for BrandLab to the top, one to BrandLab's page and another one to support donations for them. So please check them out. Go check out the sponsors on the Ecom Forum sponsor page, and you can engage with them on the Slack channels as well. So please remember to do that. Let's go ahead and move on to our next spotlight speaker. She's one of our favorites. So she is going to speak to us about how to learn how to use various technology stacks to build those e-commerce channels. So she's going to give us some actual tangible nuggets of, hi Rachel, and some actual tangible takeaways for what some merchants are using for different technology solutions. So with that, I'm going to introduce Shopify Plus Partner Manager, Rachel Clark. Welcome aboard, Rachel.
Thanks, Darin. It's good to be back this year. Thrilled to be here, and definitely a tough act to follow. I can promise I don't have any tricks up my sleeve, so don't.
Well, don't disappoint us.
All right. So today we're going to be looking at how merchants are using new technologies to build their own custom tech stacks and how these can create outstanding shopping experiences for buyers. In this presentation, I'm looking to discuss 3 different areas. Trends impacting commerce, particularly the disruptive changes over the last few months and how shoppers and merchants have responded. How technologies are powering new shopping experiences and how merchants should explore the technologies that are right for them. And finally, I'll be covering a few examples showing how different types of merchants, based on their industry, customer type, or operations, need different types of technology to deliver outstanding shops. So This year has definitely been challenging for all of us, and I know that that's an understatement. This is the first time in recent history where the entire world was changed on behavior patterns at the same time because of a pandemic. So to illustrate the impact on commerce specifically, I want to take us back to March, where I'm sure no one wants to be, when the lockdowns really first started in North America, at least. SMB and brick and mortar merchants had to suddenly close down and had to very quickly react to rethink how to sell and to deliver to their customers. So what happened? A decade of growth happened in just 8 weeks. We saw 10 years of e-commerce growth in literally 8 weeks. This still blows my mind. In the height of the lockdowns, POS channel declined by 71% compared to the 6 weeks prior. But retail merchants managed to replace 94% of the lost GMV with online sales in that same period. So 2030 pulled into 2020 in terms of technology needs and infrastructure to meet the needs of both merchants and buyers amidst this acceleration. And this is not a temporary change. We are seeing pandemic buying habits that are here to stay. We surveyed buyers to understand how they are thinking about commerce experiences in the new world of retail. There's of course been an increase in online shopping. Many people bought online for the first time ever, and we have seen people buying online in new categories, including household items, sports equipment, food, and other products that historically were much more likely to be purchased in store. The convenience, security, speed, and cost savings of buying online are changing how we buy as consumers. The sudden large increase in demand did put pressure on supply chains and logistics. Large commerce marketplaces had to change the rules of their delivery, and what previously took only a day or two ended up taking much longer. Consumers began to turn to local businesses, finding that they could get the same great range of products and those delivered quickly. COVID-19 helped bring new focus on the communities in which we live, and we think it reinforced the desire to support our local communities. We're seeing continued appetite to support local businesses, including small businesses. Businesses that were able to build community with their consumers saw that the community support them in their time of need. With many retailers not set up for shipping and logistics across channels, retailers found new ways to get products to customers. Curbside pickup became popular very quickly, a safe and convenient alternative to going into stores. Consumers have demonstrated that they like this model and are requesting better technologies for scheduling, notifications, and follow-up. The combination of traditional carrier delays and a focus on local business, local delivery also became increasingly important to get products fast and easy. This especially kicked up in everyday categories like groceries. The behavioral patterns adopted here are here to stay, and we're seeing a lot of new products helping enable local delivery. Even when we return to something that feels like normal, these buying habits have changed how consumers truly want to shop. Technologies like AR and VR are being used to help consumers try on clothes, place virtual furniture in their homes, and experience products before they buy. There's a huge scope here to leverage technology to recreate the browsing and testing experience that historically has only been capable of happening in stores. So we talked about some of the trends we saw and how retailers adopted to COVID-19 related changes. Let's now go through some examples of how to bring this to life. I'd like to draw attention to some stories over the past few months where Shopify worked with large retailers to transform their operations quickly and effectively. Trade Home. So Trade Home Shoes is a 90-year-old brand, and they accelerated their online launch due to COVID-19 and they had 100 stores that closed. So this was crazy. And they launched their online store 3 weeks early. It was incredible. They're also a direct-to-consumer foundation. And how are retailers doing this? Well, they really are adopting new technology to make this happen. Here is some of the areas we're seeing a rise in adoption. In this new world of retail, a seamless multi-channel experience is more important than ever, and strong tech stacks is how merchants are making this happen. Retail is going to see more changes and developments as new technology and business models are tested and developed. A few that are of interest now include social group shopping, live stream commerce, and try before you buy. So it's clear that technology plays a role in building great customer experience. But how does a retailer build a tech stack? Well, to understand the tech stack, we should first talk about platform. Shopify as a platform reduces friction for entrepreneurs. It allows you to sell everywhere, manage layers of complexity super simply, and can be easily customized for every merchant, no matter the size, vertical, or geography, with the extensibility we create through our API ecosystem. It's designed to reduce friction for entrepreneurs, built to be lean and capable, with features the majority need, but customizable and modular so that additional functionality can be easily integrated when required. If we think of software, we can see how much has changed in the past 10 years and will continue to change. Gone are the days of expensive, bloated software loaded with tech debt, requiring massive, expensive teams of developers to maintain, and where any new changes were weeks of work at a huge cost. Now we see platforms. So how does a retailer work out what tech stack they need? Think about pricing, about purchase frequency. Is the product standard or is it highly customizable? What about logistics, shipping, returns, and customer service? Let's consider two examples and look at the type of technology that's needed. First, we'll think about a fashion brand. Can be mid to high price points, some effort goes into decision making, and recommendations are key as a visual experience. A lot of fashion brands focus on loyalty, finding ways to convert and cross-sell, so you'll see a lot of marketing and conversion technology being used. For food, visual experience is still important, but the product range is usually not as big as fashion. Returns are not really a priority for food, but often food brands sell via multiple channels. So managing these is very important. Making sure you have fast logistics is also key, since food delivery is fast. And now we're going to take a look at some examples to help illustrate this. So if you've been following Shopify closely, you've likely heard of Gymshark. Gymshark recently hit a $1.3 billion valuation. The company, started by Ben Francis in 2012 in the UK, has really pushed the boundaries and helped define what it is like to create an incredible customer experience. Gymshark is a great example of a brand that has continually invested in the community and personalized shopping experiences. They've also invested heavily in the influencer community. To talk about their tech stack, there's Amarsis for all the marketing workflows and engaging with customers. There's Nosto, powering all personalization on the website. Yapo, user-generated content and product reviews that can be pulled onto the website. And Community can increase order volume and repeat buyers, so loyal followers. Personalization through Nosto helps to power Gymshark's very popular, you might also like, product section on every single product page. This is something that has become table stakes in commerce as shoppers are offered more and more choices online. 64% of consumers want personalized offers from retail brands. And even in a world of privacy, 90% of consumers are actually willing to share their behavioral data if additional benefits are provided that will make shopping easier. Now let's discuss North Star Bison. For over 25 years, North Star Bison has produced high-quality, delicious meats and seafoods, serving a health-conscious customer community. Their products are delivered fresh to customers across the country. And given the nature of their product, North Star provides a lot of information about each item, multiple photos, reviews, recipes, and nutritional details. They leverage several apps to make proof points and also recommend cross-sale and upsell. They also make use of technologies to test and experiment on the fly, apps that analyze user behavior on the store and then generate landing pages, new page designs that try to increase conversion. Having clear product info is key as well as trusted reviews, and you can see that example here. Upscale Audio is a seller of high-end audio equipment. These are big purchases where buyers make considered purchases. They will have a lot of questions and want to do significant research as they plan to buy, then find options to make payments that work best for them. In larger purchases like this, you'll see more tech focus on customer support and financing options. Having strong support infrastructures, knowing what issues customers might run into, and being there through the life cycle matters. In Upscale's case, the high-cost items, customers are looking at flexibility around payments, so they make it possible to buy and pay in installments. The number one challenge is driving traffic to website. But once you get to a level where you have that flywheel, you have to do things that increase conversion, and experience are what can lead to repeat buyers. So we have Gorgeous, a customer management and support which is really built for commerce. Criteo for mobile retargeting. Also, buy-in installments and support, Upscale Audio needs to support buyers before, during, and after a sale. There's a lot of focus here on customer experience, using chat and email and other messaging tools to be there when a customer has a question. So we have, again, Criteo dynamic retargeting app to maximize sales, and some merchants see an average of 13 ROAs. So you can also re-engage shoppers through their path to purchase with tailored video and display ads delivered across the world's best publishers and designed for measurable performance. Having clear product info is key, as well as trusted reviews in this regard as well, and also the ability to chat to team members to ask questions before they buy. So in this presentation, I've covered 3 areas: trends impacting commerce, particularly the disruptive changes over the last few months, and how shoppers and merchants have responded; how technologies are powering new shopping experiences, and how merchants should explore the technologies that are right for them; and a few examples showing how different types of merchants, based on their industry, customer type, or operations, need different types of technology to deliver outstanding shops. Technology will continue to evolve, and as our world and business environments adjust to a new normal, those merchants that take a strategic view of their tech stacks and build for customer experience will achieve the best results. So thank you all so much for your time today, and please feel free to follow up with me in the Ecommerce Forum channel, number 6, Spotlight Shopify Plus. Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel. Sharing the actual technology stack that merchants are using is super valuable. I think that turns an e-commerce conversation from concept to practice, or from poetry to prose, as they say. So thanks for sharing that. That's really great.
Thanks, Darin.
As she mentioned, you can connect with her out in Slack, and she'll answer all your questions. Rachel's great. Let's move on to our next spotlight speaker. He's here to talk about how shopping habits have evolved in this wonderful year. He's also a good friend. So let's welcome the COO of ShipperHQ, Quentin Montalto. Hi,
Hey,
Quentin.
Darin, how's it going?
Good to see you.
Good to see you as well.
You ready to rock and roll and talk to us about shopping habits?
I'm ready.
All right, the floor is yours.
Took that whiskey break seriously.
What's that?
I took that whiskey break seriously.
Well, we'll be doing that very seriously soon ourselves.
Awesome. I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. Like they mentioned, my name is Quentin Montalto. I'm the COO of ShipperHQ. We are coming to you talking today about some of the shipping habits that we've seen so far in 2020. A little bit about ShipperHQ and who we are to kind of give you some context of where this presentation came from. ShipperHQ is an app that we plug into the cart and checkout. We drive the shipping experience that customers see. So whether that's things like showing an estimated delivery date, or calculating rates or restrictive, everything that we see is in that cart and checkout. So we've got a really unique view of e-commerce, and especially over 2020. As 2020 has been going on, we've all had a lot of these, I think of this, I think of that, I think of this. And if you know us, ShipperHQ, we're a pretty opinionated bunch on a lot of things. And what we decided to do with this was to do a survey. And we did a survey to 1,500 people, and we came down with 5 key takeaways, and that's what I'm here to talk to you guys about. So the first one sounds kind of simple, you know, it's customer centric, put the customers first. Each one of these, we're going to go into more detail here in just a sec. I was told to read these all verbatim, so hey, here's where we are. Make shipping a priority, making lasting changes to your customer experience. We've talked a lot through some of these throughout other presentations. Here's my spin on it, what I'll share with you guys. Understanding what customers want to buy with you, and also taking advantage of the opportunity. So those are the 5 things that we're going to talk about today. So from there, you may be thinking, where is this data coming from? Did you guys just take all those opinions and then make a slide deck? No, we didn't. So we interviewed 1,500 different people all throughout the United States, half male, half female, back in September, and we came up with this data. Now, everything we're going to be presenting here is a part of our Q forecast winter survey. It's available in the Slack channel. Our marketing team did a great job. My favorite thing about this, besides the data, are the graphics. The graphics throughout here are my favorite graphics we've done yet. So as you see these, there's a lot more really fun ones in there. So let's get into the first one that we talked about. Obviously, we're talking about putting customers first. It's really important to understand what trends and what things customers are and aren't liking. In this particular instance, one of the things that really jumped out at me, you'll see there's 45% of customers prefer to pick up locally. That's really interesting. I thought that number was going to be a little bit lower, but it turns out, hey, customers want to go around. As we're stuck in our houses and as we can make that one little day trip, people are liking it. People are wanting to go pick those items up. They're wanting to know where that is. The second one is the one that I've probably been preaching for about 5 years. So if you've heard of ShipperHQ or you've heard me speak, transparency is one of the things that I'm really happy about. I feel like in some ways this has validated what we do and what we preach to customers, and it's all about transparency. The reason, you know, Shannon called out this earlier in his presentation, the reason Amazon hit $1 trillion wasn't because they have a beautiful site. Their site sucks. Like, I'm probably gonna have like one of those Amazon dogs come grab me, but it's not great. The thing they nail is transparency. And back in, you know, I say Q2 because I work in business, but back in March and April and all those times, everything we really wanted to know, and the reason we were shopping on Amazon is it showed when it would come. So we could say, okay, hey, I know I need this item and it's gonna come on this day. That's what made that such an important and such an impactful thing for how they got to the point they're at so far this year. So showing them when that item is going to arrive, 82% of people really want to know that number. It's not a hard thing to do. Anybody can do it. Don't think it's just for them. One of the most interesting things I love about it as well is 44% said they'd actually pay more for that information. There's a really great way that what we can do as merchants and as partners is we can make sure that we're upselling that expedited method. Show ground just to say, hey, it'll get there when it gets there. But if you really want this package, add 20% to it, add some cost to that. And obviously safety, it's the going thread of this entire year and the entire presentation. So we'll go ahead and leave that one off. It is important though. Safety is important. So let's talk about making shipping a priority. I'm one of the shipping guys that we had besides Krish, who absolutely killed it on the panel. Love seeing fellow shipping people represent. Speedy options. Because people can't go window shopping as much as they used to, it's kind of negated the whole sort of like, I'm gonna go walk around the store. The equivalent to me in that mind is that expedited shopping, get it there as fast as possible. 68% of millennials want that overnight shipping. Now, whether that's something to help them get through the night, you know, they want to buy makeup to do TikTok videos, whatever that is, we want it now. That's the world that we live in. I think that by the time in the next couple of years, the same way when you're waiting for your Uber, your Lyft, all those things, that's going to be the specificity we're going to be able to get down to that level because we want those items as soon as possible. One of my favorite things and one of my favorite terms I think in e-commerce that's come up in the last 2 years is porch pirates. I don't know if everybody know what that is. Those are those people that you see on the Amazon Ring videos that people are putting on Facebook watch groups of some random person grabbing a package off their porch. My favorite term of all time. 54% of people have said they've had a package stolen at least once so far this year. That to me is pretty crazy. There's a few things that people are doing around that it is still shipping, but it's a little bit unique. And those are alternative pickup locations. And we'll get a little bit more into that. The final one, and the one that I know it's the holy grail, the question I get asked the most about is about free shipping. 91% of shoppers say that's what they want. Give them a goal, make them work towards it. I was telling somebody earlier, the thing I always add to a cart when I'm shopping online is socks. Like that's my one thing. Socks are usually like $6 and I'm usually off about $6. And I'll think, you know what? I'll take 2 more pairs of socks. All right. So let's talk about some of the lasting changes. I alluded towards this earlier, talking about curbside pickup and alternative pickup locations. There's a car on this slide. I wanted to talk about on this slide in particular because I like that car a lot. One of the things that's the most interesting is as things have been changing, people are saying 88% of the people, they want to keep those same shopping habits. They want to understand where those items are. They want to understand different ways they can get it. Curbside delivery is always been big. We've seen it for a long time, but for Q2 and Q3 from a ShipperHQ perspective, that's been our most added feature. I actually think of a story that we did with Adobe. It was a success story of a customer called Gertrude Hawk Chocolates. They launched e-commerce in March. And as you hear, people are saying e-commerce has lifted 5 years in advance. They were going to do BOPIS a little bit later on in 2021, but because of what happened, it forced their hand. So they got that enabled and they saved up to 60% of their Easter business just because they knew and they saw the need for flipping that on. And that's something that they're now keeping. They're not turning it off for a bit. They're keeping that on. And that is now strategically something that they're going to ride throughout the holiday season. So it's really great to see things like that. On that same note, they're saying the percentage of that is around 26% of people that are actually going to keep that, which I thought was pretty crazy. And one of the most interesting things, we talked about this before, is alternative pickup solutions. Alternative pickup solutions aren't just curbside delivery. They're not just, local. There's a few things that they have. UPS has a program like this called Access Points, and FedEx has one called Hold It Location. What these are is where they send that package to a local area, a local store in your area that's signed up, and you can go pick your packages up right there. It was a really, really crucial thing in April and May for some businesses because they knew, hey, I don't need to take the load. We're all talking about Ship-again. It's easier for them to deliver these packages to these businesses. I'll stop there and get my essentials. I'll get my 49th roll of toilet paper, and I'll pick up the Amazon package for what I needed. So that's a really great thing that we're going to see sticking around for a long time. The biggest uptick of that has been the number of locations. Also during COVID, some stores marked themselves as pickup locations to make sure they would stay as essential businesses. So it's a great service even for that. This is a really interesting one, and one that I didn't really think of. So understand what customers want to buy from you. We have a customer that sells, they're in kind of a weird rut right now, but they sell fog machines for music venues. And one of the things they also sold on their site was hand sanitizer and cleaner. What they found was that their customers were digging through the product pages to find that sanitizer, and they were crawling around the website and they were searching for it, and they're searching for it because these people and these roadies or these bands who bought fog machines from them knew, hey, these guys sell hand sanitizer too. What they did was really interesting was as they put that to the forefront of their website, they became a hand sanitizer company that also sold stage equipment instead of a stage equipment that for some reason sold hand sanitizer. It was really important for them to know what customers are shopping for. There's some really interesting stats down there that you'll see. I think a lot more people are buying, for example, food and cleaning supplies than ever. I've never once in my entire life bought cleaning supplies online, but I did buy some Honest wipes, and I thought, you know what, I need some wipes. I don't want to go maybe get my arm cut off at a store, so I'll order that online. So it's really interesting for merchants to make sure that they're curating that experience and putting them to the top. There's great tools, Shopify just mentioned a few of them. Use those to make sure we're putting those items up top and they're on the right shelf. And like I said, these graphics are amazing, and there's even more data around this particular subject in our holiday study. Take advantage of the opportunity. I think this is the thing that every single person in the industry has been saying in every one of their panels, so I'm obligated to say that. But it's really important to take the learnings that we've had here. As I said, e-commerce has accelerated 5 years in 1 year, or months of this year. It's really important to dissect what's most important to your store and see how you can keep that, build that, or adapt it to fit you guys even a little bit better. But one of the most interesting things that we've seen is the buying. Some people are saying they're going to buy more this year. Hey, I'm going to buy more. But the biggest thing we're seeing is people are buying sooner. So it's not just the whole, we're going to rely on Amazon and get here next day, that same learning on stores. Shop sooner and shop early. There is more information on this, like I said, in our next slide. It'll highlight that. We have a full report on this. It's our holiday Q forecast. It's got all kinds of incredible data. I definitely recommend flipping through it. It's in our Slack channel. If you guys have any questions about how to set expectations or anything that I talked about, you'd like to hear more data, find me in the Slack channel or shoot me an email. I love email. I love talking on the phone. I kind of like talking in general. So reach out to me and I'm happy to help any way I can. Thank you all so much. And thank you for having us at Ecomm Forum.
Thank you, Quentin. Appreciate it. Talking about the lasting changes customers can make or that merchants can make to support the customer experience is great. So thanks, man. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. My pleasure.
All right. So our final spotlight speaker, he's going to speak about progressive web apps and shed a light on how they relate to mobile commerce, how they relate to native apps. So a lot of focus on these devices right here, not all of which have a green case. But he's going to focus on those aspects that are related to the apps on our phones and how that relates to e-commerce. So let's welcome Adobe's Senior Product Marketing Manager, Patrick Toothaker. Hi, Patrick.
Hey, Darin. How you doing? Thanks for having me.
Good, good. Thanks for joining. We're looking forward to hearing from you and seeing what you have in store for us.
Great. Sounds good.
Floor is yours. Thank you, sir.
So as Darin mentioned, I appreciate all you taking the time to join this event. This has been a really interesting, kind of quick format where we've got a lot of different topics really quickly. And I know we've heard a lot of really interesting trends. Rachel had some interesting ones recently. Quentin just had a few really interesting topics. I wanted to focus in on one big trend that we've been seeing around progressive web applications, something I think we're gonna see a lot of acceleration in the next year or so. So, mobile commerce it's a big deal and it's only getting bigger. According to Adobe's Digital Economy Index, smartphones are on track to contribute more than 50% of online spend by September 2022. There was a study by Business Insider Intelligence where they predicted that US mobile commerce sales would increase from 128 billion last year in 2019 to 420 billion in 2024, but that study was actually done before the pandemic. So we think that forecast is probably an understatement. And in fact, by the time of the August edition of that Digital Economy Index, $190 billion had already been spent through smartphones this year. Nevertheless, many businesses are struggling to sell on mobile devices. While mobile traffic is rising and mobile commerce is becoming a bigger piece of the e-commerce pie, mobile conversion rates are continuing to lag behind. On average, just over 2% of mobile shoppers convert compared to nearly 5% of desktop shoppers. So naturally, the question is, why are mobile conversions so low, even as mobile traffic rises? Of course, it's a good question. The answer lies in how the first technologies to deliver a mobile commerce experience, responsive web pages and native apps didn't quite fully meet the needs of mobile shoppers. So prior to 2007, online shopping was really purely a desktop experience. When the iPhone came out, due to the different aspect ratio, websites didn't quite look right on a mobile screen. So developers created responsive websites to dynamically adapt the desktop experience to mobile devices. But in general, responsive websites don't always perform at the level mobile shoppers demand, especially in areas when you see limited bandwidth, for example. Also, because they're designed for the desktop first, they don't necessarily take advantage of many mobile capabilities like the camera or push notifications. So naturally, some companies tried to get around the limitations of these responsive websites by building native mobile apps. These apps had to be written specifically for each mobile operating system. So companies ended up managing separate Android apps, iOS apps, and others in addition to their websites. Also, customers have to download apps and from an app store, then continually keep them updated with new releases. Native mobile apps also have some other drawbacks. The main one is that consumers forget them. 90 days after apps are downloaded, they're almost never used. And mobile apps often take up too much storage on a customer's device or have other technical issues that cause users to uninstall them. And so the bottom line is that neither responsive websites nor mobile apps are really ideal for today's consumer. So responsive websites don't work on outdated devices with old browsers. They don't interact well on all mobile devices. Load times can be very slow, and content and navigation aren't always adapted to each device. Meanwhile, native mobile apps are time consuming to download. They require App Store optimization for users to find them. They also take up too much bandwidth and consume batteries and storage. So to increase mobile conversion rates, merchants really needed to find something new. And so that's why Google introduced PWAs, or progressive web apps, as an alternative to responsive web pages and mobile apps. In 2015, that name, progressive web apps, was coined in an article that really looked for a deep shift in our understanding and tools to build better experiences across devices and contexts within a single code base. And that single code base is a really important point. And so PWAs promise to deliver the kind of mobile experience that can raise conversion rates in a meaningful way. So practically speaking, what are progressive web apps? So they're websites that behave like native apps, but they're delivered directly through the mobile browser. PWAs use the same code for multiple devices. They offer a fast app-like experience, and like native apps, they can use smartphone capabilities such as geolocation, the camera, and push notifications. And they also deliver higher engagement than responsive websites and higher adoption typically than native apps. So going a little bit further, let's consider how PWAs stack up against responsive websites and native apps and really see what the differences are. First, PWAs do, of course, share some characteristics with responsive websites. They're both websites, just different approaches. They don't need to be downloaded or installed. They interact well with small screens. They update themselves in real time, and they're accessed through the web browser. But PWAs also have some important similarities with native mobile apps. So both PWAs and native apps offer a frictionless user experience. They can be installed on the home screen. They have the ability to be accessed offline and in low bandwidth situations. They integrate with native device functions like the camera and push notifications, like I mentioned. And of course, they're highly interactive. But there's also some differences that kind of offer key advantages. For example, for PWAs, the advantages over responsive websites might be that they offer faster browsing and they perform better on mobile typically. They have seamless navigation, scrolling, and animation. As I mentioned, they respect low bandwidth, so it allows users to keep accessing some website functions when offline. They feel like native apps for a better user experience than just a typical responsive website you interact with. They can be added to the home screen, as I mentioned, and they can access and display device files. And then on the flip side, PWAs also improve upon native mobile apps. For example, users don't have to install or download them since they're accessed through the browser. PWAs also refresh with new updates and content without an App Store version update. So you're always giving your customers the latest edition, the latest experience. PWAs refresh with new updates and content. They also work well with desktops, which means that you can maintain one single code base, as I mentioned, for the entire digital commerce web experience. And this really helps businesses save significant development and maintenance costs when they're looking across all of these different devices that users might have. And then the big one for PWAs versus mobile apps is that they can be accessed just like any website through the browser. So overall, PWAs, typically we see that they're just plain better than responsive websites and native mobile apps. They offer the kind of shopping experience that is more likely to convert. They provide this app-like browsing and omni-channel experience, which means they highlight mobile-first design, these smooth animations and navigation. They have access to the smartphone functionality that I mentioned. They also keep customers engaged with these offline capabilities in low bandwidth environments. The fast page speeds and smooth checkout also increase engagement and make it easier for customers to buy. And more personalized moments of engagement allow customers to choose their own buyer journey. No downloads and updates also mean that customers are always getting the latest experience. So PWAs, who uses them? That's always the important question is, are there examples of people who have been successful with this? PWAs are now used by some of today's biggest companies, of course, Google, Microsoft, Alibaba, but they can also deliver really great results for businesses of all sizes. For us at Adobe with Magento Commerce, we've seen significant growth with our own merchants adopting PWA for their websites with a lot of really incredible results. A couple of examples here. We've got Selco, who transformed their shopping experience for their tradespeople who are managing multiple projects, construction projects, for example, through the site. Another merchant, Pinot, they use PWA to allow their traveling salespeople and field sales reps to place orders on behalf of their customers, even when they're out in remote locations with minimal network bandwidth. And when they have connectivity again, those orders are automatically transmitted and synced back to the Magento Commerce backend. And it's not on this site, but on this slide rather. But just in the last month, we actually had a large beauty brand launch a new Magento-powered PWA because it gives them this high-performing, engaging site and lets them quickly add new, unique capabilities that can really help them stand out in what is the incredibly crowded and competitive space of skincare, health, and beauty. And so both for whether it's Magento merchants or throughout the entire industry of e-commerce, as developers build up expertise, standards become more common and costs continue to come down. This trend is really only accelerating. So we've seen a number of successes with Magento merchants building PWAs, as I mentioned. We know that mobile commerce is growing rapidly, but more mobile traffic isn't always translating to more mobile sales. There's a lot of room for improvement with both responsive websites and native apps that don't quite offer that ideal mobile shopping experience that you want to deliver. PWAs are offering a new and better way to engage shoppers and increase conversions. And ultimately, with adoption rising quickly, merchants can still get ahead of the curve and see this as a potential competitive differentiator, or at the very least, we recommend that our merchants start exploring the potential of PWA to determine if it's the right time to make the shift, or at the very least, start planning for it in the near future. Otherwise, you could always risk giving a competitive edge to your competitors. So I know, of course, that's a lot of information, a lot of things to go through in a quick 10-minute session, but we've got a lot more information, including in the Magento Slack channel on the e-commerce forum, Ecomm Forum Slack. So certainly go there and check out some of the information we've got. I love the hat.
Thank you, Pat. The concept of PWAs is something I am very supportive of. I think that native apps I think they have a lot of deficiencies. So thanks for covering PWAs, appreciate it. All right.
Thanks, Darin.
So we're moving into the home stretch here. If they're not gonna let me stand, I thought I would at least start to put on some of my post-Ecomm Forum gear. And this coat right here is the power of e-commerce, because I don't know what prompted me, but last year I thought, I wonder if I could buy a fake fur green coat. Sure enough, you can. spirithoods.com, free shout out. Okay, we're moving on to the merchant panel. This is always the panel that gets the most positive feedback, because I think the merchants in the audience want to hear from other merchants and learn from them, see what they're doing, and see what they can apply to themselves. So that's why we're saving them for the end. They're kind of the headliners, if you will, the KISS, if you will, of the Ecomm Forum 2020 lineup. So let's get through the intros here. So to my left is Greta Brooks, Gopher Sport e-commerce manager. Then we have the Softies president, Tim Murphy. And lastly, Trade Home marketing director, Lauren Streif. Did I pronounce that right? Streif. All right. Lauren is also my bet for whoever might spit blood and breathe fire on the panel, if we keep with the KISS references. So let's go ahead and get into the questions. Let's start with you, Lauren, actually. Sure. Trade Home has had a unique path to your e-commerce world today, right? Because you were
really have, yep.
Brick and mortar only with over 100 stores, then started to build your e-commerce channel when suddenly, without very much notice, you had 0 brick and mortar and had to be e-com only. So just tell us a little bit about that journey. Now you have bricks and clicks going, but just tell us about how you've arrived there, what you've learned, et cetera.
Sure, it has been a crazy journey. For some context, in 2 months, if I round up, it'll be 100 years since we were founded.
Wow.
And a main
Congrats to Trade Home.
Thank you. A main principle of that was to combat mail order and catalog sales, which kind of equates to e-commerce of today. So it was really part of the DNA through different ownership and leadership that we were not going to do e-commerce. With that, the leadership changed, and they started to say yes. So early 2019, we began the vetting process to find an agency. That really took a lot longer than we expected because we operate differently, and we just didn't feel like we were finding the right partner. And then along came Irish Titan. And I think partly because I think Darin and I are both card-carrying members of the KISS Army, it really felt like a great fit. So we began the arduous process of figuring out what we wanted, how we were going to do it. And realistically, we probably should have launched in May after some thorough testing and sussing out.
Testing.
Yeah. But we proved that didn't have to happen. We accelerated. Mid-March, all of our stores shut down, and there was zero revenue coming in. Right. So we really scrambled. Our team scrambled, Irish Titan scrambled, and we launched a site. And it's been a real learning process, but it's been a great addition to our business. We're actually finding that the website, now that our stores are open, it's actually helping our brick and mortar stores do more business.
Are all of your stores open now?
They are now. It took a while.
Right.
It was over about a 2.5 month process for them to open at some capacity. And again, it's limited capacity.
Gotcha.
But it's working.
Good. Greta, let's stick to this theme of the journey to where we find ourselves today. So tell us a little bit about Go for Sports background. You're in B2B2C, sell to schools, et cetera. So tell us a little bit about the path here.
Yep. So we sell quality equipment to schools. We have 5 different brands. We have 5 different sites. Started as a catalog company 73 years ago. In 2000, they made their first site. 2013, business was going better. They thought, let's re-platform, get a couple more bells and whistles. 2016, still going the same way. Let's get some more stuff going. We picked a platform based on cost and timeline, which is where one of our first lessons came in. Timeline cannot be priority number 1, or shouldn't be in our case. And so we did that. We shopped around, though, and ended up with this small shop. And they built it in 3 months, and they launched it. We also didn't do any testing, and we learned that that was necessary for us. So it was a big disaster. So timeline can't be number 1. Cheap, it was on budget. So at the time that was good, but then we spent 12 months spending unreal money fixing what had happened. So cheap is not always forever cheap. And then the third mistake we made there was we built it in a silo, just with the ecom team. And ecom touches every single team in the company. But we did it with blinders on, and then we launched it and said, surprise, and you're welcome. And then everybody was very upset. Bad attitudes for a whole year. After that year, we said, we're done. We're going to re-platform. This isn't meeting our needs anymore. It's not scalable. Our customers are having issues. And so we began a very long process again. And this time, we said, we're going to use our business mottos, which are, we want every single thing we do with the customer, internally, everything has to be fast, friendly, easy, and right. And so that's how we shopped. And we ended up with Magento. We're now 6 weeks from launch. And it's going well. And it's, we didn't have the timeline driving it. If it's not ready, we're not going to launch it. And so that's where we are today.
To your last point, you can't have no timeline, right? Like, it's otherwise work can expand and take the amount of time available, right? Mm-hmm. But I am a firm believer that it's more important to launch right than on time, right?
Yep.
And so you can have urgency in trying to drive to a timeline, but if you need to delay it a week, 2 weeks, maybe a month for more thorough QA, your situation was different,
sure,
right?
A little unique.
Yeah, right, exactly. But if you need to delay it a little bit to launch right, you'll remember launching right 5 years from now. You'll also remember if you launch and it's a disaster. You won't remember if you launch 2 weeks late.
Right.
Right. Tim, on the other hand, you have a unique story, right? So they were brick and mortar and then added an e-commerce channel. They're B2B. You were e-commerce focused from the beginning, some channels now, but COVID has been a positive factor on your business. You're going through some explosive growth. Fill us in on the Softies story.
Sure. Well, Softies is it's a family company, and we specialize in just sleepwear to begin with in 2006, and we've slowly grown into robes, loungewear, and cuddlewear, our accessories line. And when I took over the business in 2014, the strategy was I had 2 young kids at home, and I'm not going to go to 24 trade shows a year. So how do we get on Amazon? How do we build a website and start touching our customers from that D2C perspective? So it's probably 3 or 4 years ago now where at a trade show, I started to make some really strong media relationships. And that's Oprah's Favorite Things, that's engagement with ABC, Target. And the past 4 years have all been about how do we optimize those channels and grow upon them. And you guys have been tremendous in that regard. But it's definitely been a wild ride. So, our styling has changed a lot in the last year. We've gone for more versatile pieces that you can use on a Zoom call, that you can wear to work, that you can answer the door in. And when COVID hit, it was a silver lining from a business perspective because everyone's home. And our business just skyrocketed. And we were already going in that direction.
Right.
But to be prepared and just kind of have a stroke of luck, and COVID is by no means a stroke of luck, but from a business perspective, it's been pretty insane. It's been a wild ride.
Right. Yeah, it's obviously unfortunate. We never want to try to position COVID as a positive, but some businesses have been in industries that benefited from it.
Yeah.
So, and you guys were one. You touched on Amazon drinking game, if anybody's doing it at home. Fill us in a little bit on that Amazon and marketplace strategy that you guys have employed.
Well, we're very protective of our Amazon kind of ecosystem. We don't allow other resellers to sell our product on Amazon.
Your brand's important to you.
It's so important.
Right.
And we put a lot of money, a lot of marketing dollars into our brand and our pricing strategy. And so if we're going to be $99 on Amazon, we want to be $99 on Target, we want to be $99 on our website. And if another reseller comes in and wants to offer a sale, that can destroy everything we've worked really hard to build and protect that brand equity, protect that margin. So Amazon is just so incredibly important to us, even to the point where when COVID did hit this year, we were fortunate enough to have a lot of our inventory in-house, and we're filling seller-fulfilled Prime out of our warehouse. So we're not even relying on Amazon's shipping channels at this point, because as a lot of people know, they got shut down for a period of time. Right. So we do anything to protect that Prime order and that Prime price.
Gotcha. You guys have a different Amazon strategy and marketplace strategy in general, very intentionally. What's that?
Yep, we intentionally do not play with Amazon to protect our margin, and we have a lot of proprietary products that we want to keep proprietary to us. And we just, we like to focus on other e-procurement channels that our schools shop through instead of there.
Amazon's fun. I met a person there, first time this year.
You actually met someone from Amazon?
I talked to them on the phone.
Oh, right.
They said they were from Amazon.
So they exist.
I think so.
Right. Lauren, can you guys even sell on Amazon?
Well, the quick answer is no. We have a lot of vendor agreements that don't allow it. And again, it's the vendor and the brands trying to protect their existence. And it's really okay with us. Our business model is based upon value add, not discount, and full service. So really it's the antithesis of Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe someday if we have some private label, we'll consider it. But again, it's about protecting the brand.
Right. And your manufacturer agreements don't probably allow it.
They don't allow it.
Right.
There's a few, but the brands that are really driving our business, that are really important and really differentiate us from some other footwear retailers, they just say no.
And you feel that Trade Home's an established enough business that selling on Amazon isn't a real temptation?
It really isn't. It's not. A lot of what we do with our online is intended to support our brick and mortar. We don't want to be a competitor to our own stores.
Right.
And I think the Amazon environment would really encourage that competition. We would be seen as a competitor to our own stores.
So we haven't really talked about this in too much detail. This is live, like I said. What strategies and maybe policies or programs do you have in place for your brick and mortar and your online to complement each other and work together?
Well, it's something that we're working on improving and making some changes to. That's one of the things that we recognize is that we need the support of our managers in our store personnel. There are biggest champion. You know, they're the ones that are introducing their customers, and they really look at it that way. Each store looks like, they approach it from it being their store. They take a lot of pride in ownership, especially now that we're in ESOP. And so a lot of it is, we think about the store first. How will this impact our employees? And if we can't say it's positive, then we don't do it.
So, so let's just stick with you for just a moment longer then. So here we are, roughly 6 months after launching, right? So and you alluded to what you may discuss at some point in your answer here, but what are some of the learnings you have, right? Like, what decisions turned out to be good ones? Which ones would you maybe have reversed? Which ones are you still maybe working through? Like, give us a sense of what it's like 6 months after a big, messy launch.
It definitely has been a learning process for us. You know, a year ago, I didn't know anything about e-commerce, operating e-commerce, and now I run the e-commerce, and there is a lot to it. You know, I guess if we look at it from like two angles, from the store side of things, a couple of things that we would love to implement that maybe got trimmed out because of the rushed launch. One would be supporting that local search. You know, we would love the idea for somebody to actually see what is the inventory availability in their local store. Right now, it kind of alludes to the fact that, you know, your local store might have it, but it's not a seamless thing. We're far from a buy online, pick up in store scenario. So that's really something that we would love to get added in. The other side of that would be probably enhancing our loyalty a little bit, getting it connected. When we launched, our POS system and the registers in the stores needed to be upgraded in order to play nice with the e-com. And there's still some bumps involved with that. Unfortunately, when the stores were closed, we didn't have access to do the upgrades. And we can only do about 4 a day. It's my understanding that we're at about 60%. So we're getting close. And that's really going to be a much better experience, both in store and online. And then the other key to it is we want the stores to be able to use that online store as an expanded back room. You know, some of our smaller locations may not be able to have every color, every width, every size, and we want that website to be something they can use as a tool to have an enhanced availability for their customers.
Yeah.
And then probably on the website, there's probably a handful of things, and the first would just, again, be that search. Initially, when we launched, we shipped a lot of shoes to communities where we have stores because they knew us. We've been really working hard on expanding the search, and suddenly we're shipping shoes to California and Florida and places. There's no reason those people should know who we are. So we're getting that non-branded search now. And then probably 4 things that would be an attempt to mimic the store experience. You know, it would be that, again, the loyalty. We kind of make it hard for people to find us, but once they do, they really like us. We'd like to keep continuing that. And then, you know, the service aspects, how do we mimic that? That's a little tricky. But things like, you know, the cross-sell, upsell aspect, we initially launched with just the out-of-the-box, and it was a little weak. You know, our salespeople are great at suggestive selling. You know, you're always going to get fries with the burger, you can kind of say. They are really good at that, and we're starting to get some action in that regard. And so just trying to mimic the store. Again, everything that we want this website to do, we love seeing sales, but we want it to support our stores.
Sure. So, you know, we're digging around on this topic, this theme of what you learned from the launch and how you start to scope things and that sort of general topic. So Greta, we already talked about how COVID had impacted you guys and has impacted you guys. I shouldn't say past tense. But how did it then start to shape the project? Like, what changes did your e-commerce project endure?
Yeah, so we learned a couple things from COVID. So obviously we sell to schools shut down, disaster looms. And so then we, we had reduced corporate spending, and every department had the challenge to trim some of the non-essential tools. So for ecom specifically, what could we keep that's going to have an ROI, proven ROI for us, and going to make a difference? And so what we chose to keep was reviews. Social proof is really important, even in B2B world. So we kept that, and we kept site search. Through site search, we have, 13% of our users use site search, but they make up 30% of our revenue online. So we said we're keeping that. We're going to make it even better. We're going to focus on it. We're going to have all these teams involved. So that's coming over through the e-commerce project. And then the second thing that happened, which is kind of a positive, we sell fitness equipment through one of our brands. And when Amazon ran out of dumbbells, we had them. And so we saw 900% increase in visits to that site that sells dumbbells. And we all went, oh my God. And then we have it's a little embarrassing, but we have our inventory feed running once a day. Because schools, we know we're going to be able to service you. If you need a bunch of racks for your, football gym, we know we're going to get those to you. But then all of a sudden, every family in America wants a rack for their garage. And we're like, oh dear. And so it's a basic thing to get right, but now we run it every 2 minutes. Problem solved, more or less. So that was a win. And so we're going to bring these basics into our new e-commerce project and start correctly.
Yeah. So you went from running your inventory update once a day to every 2 minutes?
Yep.
Wow, that's quite a change.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
People need their fitness equipment.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like turning a bicycle into a jet airplane.
Mm-hmm. We're still out of dumbbells now. We sold out.
So in terms of what you're planning to launch with versus what you want to invest in phase 2, 3, 4, et cetera, what are some of those phase 2, 3, 4 priorities?
Yeah, so phase 2, 3, 4. So an interesting thing that we started with this project, COVID hits, spending is reduced. We're gonna launch with only the things that we need. And we decided after discovery, bless Irish Titan for going with us on this, we said, you know what? We're not gonna have any customizations. We're gonna launch with 0 customizations. We've customized ourselves into this complicated corner where we think everything is necessary, but it's slowing us down. We think it's slowing our customers down, strip it. So we're gonna launch it and we're gonna see what we're missing for real. Things we think we need. People need an invoice lookup tool. Probably not. They probably don't. We're gonna find out. So we will prioritize things based on what we're hearing from the customer, what we're hearing internally. We wanna make their lives better first, then our lives second. And so that's where we're headed.
Yeah, I think that launching with minimal customizations is incredibly wise. When I was on the other side of the table before starting Irish Titan, one of the experiences I had was launching Wilson Leather's e-commerce and launching their internal merchandising system. And particularly when we launched the internal merchandising system, we kept the customizations to an absolute minimum. And that was difficult because everybody thinks they're their own special snowflake and they need to do it a different way than the software allows. And usually they don't. And it's more expensive to make the software work for them. So kudos to you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Tim, I want to talk about marketing and what you guys have done because you're pretty proficient there. But before we get to that, because I think then we'll riff on that for a while. But one of the things we've talked about with you and that you've mentioned are some of the logistical challenges, onboarding, overseas manufacturers. And, I mentioned earlier, not sure if you were listening, but from an e-commerce perspective, everybody likes to talk about the site and pre-checkout sorts of activities and acquisition, conversion, retention sort of activities. The logistics, operations, that sort of stuff just isn't as sexy. Earlier I said everything pre-checkout is like the whiskey and everything post-checkout is the potatoes.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about the Softies potatoes.
Sure, I'm definitely the potatoes guy, and you guys are the whiskey guy, which is nice. I want to switch. Yeah, the logistics of actually getting the product here from overseas, especially this year, has been incredibly complicated. You don't know if your factory is going to go down. Supply chains are all full at this point. It's really difficult to get a carrier here at this point. So what we've done at Softies is we front-loaded everything. I've got enough product to go into half of 2021, and it could be incredibly stupid, but we'll find out. When we turn the corner on the year and people are starting to reorder, we don't know what the situation is going to be overseas. So we've kind of doubled down our inventory position, and we've bought spring goods in advance, and we're hoping to capture a lot of market share when people might be out of goods. So it's going to be it's an exciting time. It's a little bit of a nervous time right now. But maintaining those supply chains is incredibly crucial, not only when they get overseas, but when they get to our warehouse as well.
So I think that your confidence in your inventory position probably gives you some confidence in being aggressive on the marketing side of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because you're confident in being able to meet the demand.
Yep.
So what are some of those marketing strategies? Because you're doing a lot there.
Yeah, we are. So now that we have it, we got to sell it. And some of the new fun things that we're doing, we always invest a ton of money. And if you're selling apparel or whatever it is, I highly recommend, excellent photography. I mean, that's the face of your store, at least for us, is everything. And when it comes to apparel, if you can't put it on, you can't touch it, photography is our most important asset. So we spend a lot of money there. We spend a lot of money in copy. I can't spell, so I'm definitely not writing the copy. And then we spend a lot of money on kind of the back end stuff. Once a customer comes in, how do we keep them in? The retargeting. Loyalty has been huge for us. We're doing a lot with loyalty. We have reviews. Lauren and Greta, you both mentioned reviews, I think. Reviews have been so powerful, and being able to syndicate reviews to other channels. It's really hard to get a review on some channels, but our own, for whatever reason, people like to respond and engage. And to be able to syndicate those to other channels and tell people how great it is when they're shopping on Target or Amazon, that's been really important. So yeah, we're spending quite a bit of money on marketing, but hey, we got to move product.
Right. And paid search you're investing in too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we always maintain a level of top line revenue. What's the percentage of marketing in relation to how much we're either selling that month or how much I anticipate we're going to sell? So it never gets too far out of control. I know we did this last year, and we finished, and I was like, oh, I want everything. And, cooler heads prevailed. You're like, well, first of all, we can't do it that fast.
Right.
And second of all, it's going to cost a little bit of money. So it's been baby steps, and we've maintained our marketing dollars as a percentage of revenue. And I think it's been the right way to go so far.
So are there certain features that you've been looking to build into the platform that will then unlock marketing activities? Do you know anything around that's on your roadmap that you want your e-commerce site to be able to do that then you can create marketing strategies to leverage?
Gosh, that's a tough one. We're doing so much right now with Yotpo and Bazaar Voice. We just upgraded to Shopify Plus. I think I'm out of cash right now, so it'll be down the road, phase 2.
Right. Well, Tim mentioned that you guys have all talked about reviews. Let's open it up a little bit. Greta, talk about reviews and some of the other similar marketing strategies that you guys have undertaken.
Yeah, it's very interesting, the difference in reviews from B2C to B2B. It's pulling teeth getting B2B because our shopper might not be the buyer and you're sending the review request to the buyer. And then COVID hits and everybody's reviewing the dumbbells, and we're like, yay, how do we do this? But with with all the teachers. But I think social proof just goes such a long way. We stand by our products. We know they're high quality. We know you're going to love them. Please come leave us a review. We're going to look at different ways we can incent possibly, or reasons to that. And then also probably run out of money, so we'll see. And we're going to live in our bare bones world. I can't do personalization until I can get all those basics right. We can use what Magento has to offer. They got tons of fun tools in there that we can go master, and then bring in a vendor to bring us to the next level.
So personalization. Mm-hmm. So I want to talk to you a little bit. When we first met you, my team you knocked their socks off. It's like, she's a pro. She's great. She knows her stuff. So nice. I know there are some things we can dig around on here. So personalization, when you say personalization, what is it you envision ultimately doing?
So that's one of the vendors that we made the tough decision to cut. When you have personalization, I can have the tools set up, but I need my marketing folks, my brand people, all these people to help decide on our 5 different sites, what's going to run, who's going to approve it, who's going to nurture it and monitor it. And it's not me. And that's what it ended up being. And I couldn't do it. So we couldn't prove the ROI. I think they're great tools. Can't wait to do it. But you have to prep the team, get them invested and excited.
And then one more topic for you, or at least while we have you, while you have the microphone, the proverbial microphone. Mm-hmm. You have a lot of e-commerce experience. And so how would you characterize the differences in B2C or D2C, depending on how you want to say it, e-commerce and B2B, particularly from maybe a marketing perspective or wherever you want to take the question?
Yeah, in my experience, I think they're relatively the same. B2B has a lot more self-service needs. They want to see their order history regardless of channel. They want to see the invoices, they want to pay invoices online. They have a couple more needs there. But otherwise, everybody's the same. The coach who's shopping for different things, like the football sled, he is a person who likes to shop e-commerce. He likes the bells and whistles too. He likes the fancy copy. I got to see a great image. They're the same. So we treat them the same with the focus of all the self-service things at the forefront.
Is there a longer sales cycle on the B2B side?
So B2B, that's interesting. It's depends on what it is. You know, we could sell a playground and that'll take a little bit longer. But they also return. We have very loyal customers, but it's like a once a year purchase, which is different.
Sure.
I might come buy 10 pajamas and 10 shoes all in a couple months here, but I'm only going to buy that playground once every 5 years.
Yeah.
And how do we get them to come back? Because of our white glove service.
Sure. Lauren, let's bounce over to you, riffing off of Tim's comments and dig a little bit deeper on reviews, maybe personalization, if you have some of that stuff in mind. Like, what are some of those specific marketing strategies that you are scratching the surface of now or have tagged for phase 2, phase 3, phase 4?
Yeah, well, as you remember, when we first launched, we did it with the intent of having a few phases afterward. And very similar, when we were going to first launch, we wanted everything, you know, and then we started seeing the price tag, and we kind of said, okay, this can wait, this can wait. And especially with the hurried launch, we kind of said, what is absolutely necessary? You know, can we show product, can we take payment, and can we ship?
Right.
Like, let's get that. But for instance, with the reviews, we're currently just using the, again, out-of-the-box app. You know, we had looked at Bazaar Voice. It just couldn't fit in the budget at the time. We'd love to get there. The syndication of reviews is really something that we want. You know, we have reviews as part of our loyalty. You know, they can earn extra loyalty points for leaving 2 reviews a month. But we find they really just trickle in. You know, we've improved it by setting up some automations that 14 days after a purchase, they receive a, you know, hey, how do you like the product? Please leave a review. And so we've gotten a few, but it's kind of a manual process right now. And it'd be great if we could get the reviews from our vendors to push onto our site. Right. That would really be powerful, and it's something that we'd love. And then personalization is definitely on my radar. Our emails used to just simply be just kind of a, bleh, we have shoes, and everybody knows we have shoes. That's not remarkable.
Trade home shoes
yeah,
kind of gives it away.
Yeah, well, we had to add the shoes to help SEO. It used to just be trade home. Why would anybody look for us for shoes? But you know, one of the neat things in our stores, again, I point out how our personnel in the stores, they really take ownership. I used to run stores, and every town that I ran a store in, I was the shoe guy. You know, we'd be out for dinner, and people would recognize me as the shoe guy, and I would recognize my customers. You might not always remember their names, but you remember the experiences in the store, and we really want to try and recreate that on our website. And so we're trying some new things to kind of slice and dice our customers so that we can say, hey, John, we know you love X brand. We just got some new ones in, you know, and rather than sending to thousands of people just a real generic, we really want to hone it down to where we can say, individual, we know you, we remember you buying from us, and, you know, here's another thing you might like.
Yeah. You touched on something that we really haven't talked about in the rest of the panel, and that's email marketing. Let's go this direction. What are you guys doing for email marketing at Gopher?
Yep, we do a couple content emails a week, and then very little product pushing though. You know, we'd rather tell teachers how their classroom's going to improve with our active seating, but not even linked to a product necessarily. It's more just like, we're here to help you, or a partner. Yeah. So we do a lot of that. Our email lists are small compared to some of the bigger guys, but we're doing it. We're actively doing it, and it is a very profitable channel for us.
Gotcha. Tim?
A lot of new product introduction, especially this time of year. Not a ton of promotion until we get deeper in the holiday season. But to what Lauren said, like the segmentation, that can be really fun. Like, let's not give 20% to someone who's going to pay full price.
Right.
And then those customers who are in that lower bucket, like, how do we get them back in the funnel here? So kind of dicing it up and attacking it from that standpoint, from an email perspective, that's pretty cool.
Yeah. And do you guys, what are you planning for holiday? We didn't really talk about this.
Discount?
So, for just general promotions with new product and discount and holiday, Black Friday, Cyber Monday?
We've got it all lined up, but it's all relative to inventory position. So if we've got our, Black Friday, Cyber Monday, it's always going to be that free shipping plus X% off. But if we need to move a style, we'll gas it quick. I mean, those discounts are going to come out heavy. Last year, we had a piece that was so successful, we never discounted it.
Nice.
So we kind of fly by the seat of our pants, but it's educated flying a little bit to a point.
One of the themes that I talk about with a lot of different merchants and entrepreneurs is the market's going to tell you things you just can't anticipate, right? And so have you had products that you thought for sure were going to be successful that were less successful, and others that you thought probably wouldn't hit and they did?
I've made horrible products. Yeah, I made a leopard neon print blanket one time.
Yeah.
It took me 5 years to sell it. Yeah, I mean, I've struck out way more times than we've hit a home run. It's just the times we do hit a home run, we just double and triple down on that. So it all kind of evens out in the end.
Right. Who would have thought a fake fur green coat would sell online, but it does.
I know.
You find the right customer.
I was surprised that wasn't custom. You said that was off the rack.
Okay, so we're going to move into the last round of questions, the Shamrock round, which is kind of our spin on a lightning round, even though the questions don't have to be short. So I think I just wanted to call it a Shamrock round. So Lauren, let's start with you. What one piece of advice would you offer either a merchant, so someone that's trying to start an e-commerce channel, what one piece of advice would you offer them, or what one piece of advice would you offer someone on our side of the table, whether it's an SI, as we're called, a solutions integrator, or a technology provider, like one of the platforms? Pick either one of those, and what advice would you give for them to be more successful as a merchant or to work with merchants better if it's someone on our side of the table?
Okay. I guess to stick with the Shamrock theme, I may sound a little bit like I'm spouting an Irish proverb, but I think you want to recognize that the more you try to be visible, the less you're going to be invisible. And what I mean by that is, for us, we never used to advertise, never used to really be under the microscope. Again, we work with brands. We never had to worry about MAP pricing, which for those who aren't in retail means minimum advertised price. Well, all of a sudden we have vendors that are scrutinizing our pricing. So we needed a person that could handle all that and keep track of it. You can have two sides to that. If you violate MAP pricing, you can get in trouble. You can lose your ability to carry a brand. And the other side of it is if a brand takes a MAP break and they drop their price and you're still at full price, people think you're kind of a greedy jerk, so you really have to pay attention. We can't hide anymore. We're trying to have people find us. And so I think there's the idea that you just have to ask one more question when you're starting to think about what your site's going to look like. We made a lot of decisions that we didn't anticipate the ramifications of, and now the site's up and we're like going, why does it do that? And I have to go, because we told it to,
Right.
And so I think just really being cognizant of the fact that you're going to be on display.
Yeah. Tim, one piece of advice for merchants or technology side?
I would say someone from a vendor side looking for some help in technology, because we were clueless to everything when we started, is it seems like everyone in IT knows everything. Like if you go to a search firm and you're like, are you guys great at search? They go, we're the best. We're amazing. And then you go to the next one, like, oh, they're terrible. We're the best.
Right.
And you meet people, like you meet someone playing basketball. They must be good at IT. It happens to be you are, but basketball too. But I would ask them, like, what are you bad at? And like, give me the real answer. Because I coach my son's basketball team, and they're 9 years old. They all think they're Steph Curry. They're pretty bad. But what are you bad at? And then you can help make a decision. And it shows, people can be honest and give you a side that might help you make a better decision.
Right. That's a great question. And again, I mentioned earlier after the entrepreneurs panel about the value of paying it forward and kind of being a good person, if you will, right? Like I was introduced to Sabrina, and I was introduced to Mohamed and Small World. And luckily, so Tim plays basketball with the same group and right after the same group as I do. And when he walked in the office the first time, I thought, God, that guy looks familiar. And then we finally connected it. And luckily, like, neither of us were jerks when we played basketball. Yeah, otherwise, that meeting might have been a little bit different.
I might go for your knees now. Yeah.
Right. Greta, one piece of advice. Close us out.
Yep, I will echo the honesty and patience for vendors, and just being a partner and not afraid to give your advice, because we don't know everything. We're hiring you to help us. And then the other thing that I will offer that we're doing that feels a little risky this year is we plan 2021. 2020, real nuts for everybody. Our customers are going to shop differently. We're going to have to do business differently. So right now, as we're planning it, we keep saying, our CEO is telling us, go burn your ship down, which is as I understand it, some war phrase. You land on the beach and you burn the ship so you can't leave.
Yep.
Yeah. How are you going to rebuild it? And so it's a very interesting exercise. I think it's valuable to do, even if it doesn't totally form your plans. But as I'm burning my ship down, I'm thinking, okay, I'm either going to rebuild it or go forward with the goal of a new bulletproof cart and checkout, a fast site, super fast, super important, and then also just a really clean, simple UX. Everything's going to have to support that. If it doesn't, I'm leaving it behind.
Great. So thank you, Greta, Tim, and Lauren. Great insights, and thanks for being awesome merchants. Our team honestly raves about you guys all the time. You guys are all badasses. So thank you for that. All right. I'm going to stand. I know I'm not supposed to, but let's adjust the camera because I'm standing a little bit because we are done. So thanks to everybody for being a part of Ecomm Forum. We're coming out the other side. I said, buckle up, buttercups. I don't know how it went on the other side. It seemed like it went pretty well here. But some thanks to MCN6 for putting on a great production. We could not be more pleased with how things went. Some thanks to all of our speakers. We appreciate their time and their willingness to invest that time with us. I want to offer a quick thanks to Larry Toma. I made him wait this whole time to give him a flex. He is our only 6-time Ecomm Forum attendee, at least that I know of, and not counting people who are now Irish Titans. And thanks to everybody who made this work. Jack and JE, thank you. We're signing off for some high-octane fun on our side now, so thank you for being part of it. Thanks, Ecomm Forum. We'll see you next year.